Oi, hoi! I believe we are live. We are live for the only Cheltenham Festival preview that we've done this season. Nobody missed out on anything special on Sunday. Imagine that. Imagine us doing two of these bad boys in fairly quick succession. Look, I'm going to waffle for a small second just to allow a few people to jump on. We're going to run through every race, but we are going to be as quick as possible. We appreciate that we have 28 races to cover. Even if we spend a couple of minutes on each, it's going to take us about an hour. But we will delve a bit more into the handicaps. That's what we know you guys are here for. So first thing, just top of the order, just to get things out the way. And again, I'll mention this a little bit later on, just so that the people that are a little bit later joining can do. We've got £30, 3-bet I'm going to shove up. So as long as you just comment something in the comments, I don't know what sort of word or something we want to put in there. What should we tell them to do, Paul or Jamie? What should we tell them to shove in the comments to enter the competition to get a £30 free bet?
I reckon you can probably go back through and whoever puts up the best double or each way double in the comments.
Or if they have a great lucky 15 that we both like or something like that. Anything. It doesn't matter. Like Paul said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I was just thinking like a word like Dave or something like that. Nothing complicated.
You always think about words like Dave.
All right, I tell you what, drop it in the comments. Anybody that comments the word Tiapu is in for a chance to win a £30 free bet. We will announce that before the end of the show. As I say, I'll touch on that again as we move on. But anyway, gentlemen, we'll get on to the preview. We'll crack on with it. We have got some notes from Sunday that were nicely drafted up. Very successful, even as far as I'm concerned. Less nervous not having the crowd within striking distance of me, I'll be honest with you. But it was good fun. This is going to be good fun as well because we should better be a bit quicker, right? I'll happily let us crack on with us now. Oh, yeah, make sure you like the video as well and share it with people and do all that stuff. Anyway, we've got 123 people on now. Hopefully that number's going to jump up to Supreme, gents. We're going to be quick on this one, I think, because I feel like it just whittles down to a small potential possibility. Obviously, the exchange at the moment, Ballyburn is a relatively big drifter in the scheme of the fact that he was 5-4 a week ago. He's about 130 now, and he's shortened up for the Birmingham Bingham. I still believe that Ballyburn comes here. It maybe looks more like now than anything on the exchange movements, the mystical power comes here as well. But as far as we're going from this point, I would be still tipping up Ballyburn. It's not money back if people are betting, but I mean, I'd wait to the day, get stuck into Ballyburn if he runs it within my thoughts. Paul, how do you see the market moves and who wins it, do you think?
I don't know. I'm so disinterested in this race now. I was just sitting here amusing myself thinking, with Daryl not on the panel tonight from Toaster, we look like the worst ZZ top tribute band in the world. I think the only thing that I can find as a way into this race now is probably Mr. Giff each way of Willys. Ballyburn comes here, he wins, doesn't he? Firefox is probably next best. So maybe an each way angle with something like Mr. Giff, but yeah, I haven't really got too much to say about this race now that people haven't heard.
Yeah, fair enough. Jamie, I mean, the viewers will know that you're Ballyburn all season long. Still sticking with the same side regardless of what's going on in the markets?
Yeah, like I said Sunday, Dave, all I on Ballyburn. I was with Paul as well, with Mr. Giff each way. Just a small one now. If Ballyburn is switched, and the way the track, we had a gentleman there on Sunday telling us about the track. He said how quickly it dries out, but look, you could see by the turf tracks today, the weather's unsettled the weekend, so you're definitely going to end up with soft. You could have heavy in places to start of the thing. That could be good in places by next Tuesday. But if Ballyburn moves, I'd be seriously interested then in, I think Slade Steele will come here. And look, he's second to Ballyburn is probably the best form. So look, Ballyburn all in. If Ballyburn switches, I'd be all over Slade Steele, but I definitely would have, like Paul said, a saver on Mr. Giff.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I'll just last word on that race as well. I mean, obviously everything's shortening up behind as well, but nothing's really being pushed out. So even if you think if Ballyburn comes out, you'd be hard pressed to think that we're seeing it on air. The exchanges 4-1, 4-1, 7-2, 7-1. Like they're going to be reasonably. Well, I don't think any of it's going to be shorter than that on the day. Is what I'm saying. Especially with concessions, extra places out there. So, I mean, we've all probably bet anti-post in the race. If you haven't, then leave it alone to the day is going to be my advice. Let's move on to the Arkle, which I mean, it's hottened up, right? Sunday. I mean, without us saying it, there was a lot of us that were thinking that, I say a lot of us, I could really say the names of it, couldn't I? There were basically the vibe in general just sort of felt like the good horses are Marine Nationale, Facile Vega, Gaelic Warrior. Marine Nationale was clearly going to come here until he no longer is. So that was, I guess, a different way of looking at the race compared to now, because we thought Marine National was going to be in, and we knew that he's got the ability. Obviously, he's not here. My thoughts on what I suggested on Sunday haven't changed. Speaking of exchange, though, he's so weak on the exchange. I'm terrified that he might not run. But the one that I mentioned on there and in the notes we got written was, I think he's drunk. I mean, I probably was, but I probably because of the selection too. I just wanted to give a shout out to Matata. And I'm saying if they run the horse, I couldn't believe that they wouldn't run it. But Hunter's Yarn's coming in now. He's a bit weak on the exchanges even after Marine's come out. So he's non-runner, no bet. I'm advising him out anyway. The reason I was saying him was that there's lots of horses in this race. I mean, Gaelic Warrior's done a 158 and a 160, but everything else has run mid 150s RPRs. Matata's done a 154 and a 153, so he's in that bucket of mid 150s. Obviously did it round here when he was 101 and just dogged it. And even the JPR1 race, jumping was a little bit erratic to the side, and I do get that. But we know that he's got enough ability to run the same figures as some of these other horses have done. Now, some of them may be able to improve beyond him, but I just think at 20-1, he's a horse you should definitely think about. And I think if he does line up on the day, especially with the fact that there's a few in front of him that might not line up, I just don't think he'll be that big a price. You might get extra places on the day, but for what it's worth, if I'm having a bet in this race, it's Matata each way, and I'd fancy that each way bet quite strong. And then if I was having a win dart, the win dart would be on Hunter's Yarn, because I touched on the fact of he might not be able to do as much as other horses in this race could do. Hunter's Yarn, we don't know if he definitely can, but might be able to put in like a 160s performance. Jamie, obviously the complexion of the race has changed a bit. I think you've said it multiple times that if Gaelic Warrior comes here, you'd be having a strong bet on him, but I can't see him coming in now. I know Marine National's out, but it wasn't really Willie's intention, was it? So would you still be advising that, or is there something else now that things have changed you might be looking at betting?
Yeah. Look, Dave, I always said exactly what you just took the words out of my mouth. If Gaelic Warrior comes in, I'll be all over him, yeah, because I think if you just puck him out in front, he'll win. But look, with Marine National coming out now, I can't have it at that time. I'm sorry. He's just good at Leopardstown. Found a 50 I would kind of liked. And as well, if you think about it, in the Dublin Racing Festival, it's 2 miles 1. It's mile 7.5 in the Arkle. Like, found a 50. If you put that distance in the Dublin Race Festival, you probably would have won. I really liked him before, but the only thing is, he jumps to the right a small bit, doesn't he? Look, I know Gaelic Warrior does as well, but found a 50. The one look, if there's pace in this race and forecast soft ground, I think like 6-1 there, 13-2 top price, bet 365. Surely you'd have to be on Facile Vega. He like on the run last year with Marine National, like they were the two best horses. Even if Marine National was here and it was Marine National against Facile Vega, it would be between the two of them anyway on the form of last year's Supreme, because they were miles clear of everything else. So yeah, I would still go with, if he turns up, because look, what's he? Is he what's he on the exchanges, Dave? 100. What's that? 12-1.
He's in the 20s or the teens. Like, there's not mad money for him, but there wouldn't be with the fact that Willie said he might not travel. I wouldn't read into it too much.
Too much, no. But he'd be my selection at the moment. Facile Vega each way there, 13-2, but bet 365. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that helps my all my bets. Anti post another shocker in there, and because I had under each way on him at 13-2, and now it might not look so bad. I thought that was £200 I was going to bank back, Paul. I'm just going to quickly, before I come to you, Paul. Duke and Duchess has just said about Master Chewy question mark. I'll just give that a quick tiny mention, because that's the one that Daryl put up. But that was after Daryl told us not to back a Willie Mullins second string, and I classed Matata as their first string for the yard. My quick tiny thought on Master Chewy is I think he's a flat track horse. Yes, he's got some good form behind horses. He's an Aintree horse, not a Cheltenham horse from my view. But Daryl did put him up as a selection. Paul, it feels a tiny bit like with the Supreme and the Arkle, the way the markets are now. I touched on that first race, right, didn't I? Behind Ballyburn, it's 4-1 the next 3 in. It's already 4-1 the 3 in here. Again, we're probably going to get extended places on the day. I know the situation's changed because of Marine National, but an each way double between the first and second race probably wouldn't be the worst thing to do on the day, maybe. But obviously, we're doing this as a preview. Any advice for punters out there of something to get stuck into now?
Yeah, look, I think that the thing now with everybody's said the thing about Marine National, has he got a breathing problem? Has he not? That's gone. You look at the market now, and there's not a single horse that anybody is going to say is their nap of the day, is there? There's nobody going to be confident that they've got the winner. If they're having one dart in this race, nobody's confident they've got the winner, which is just right for a boil over completely. So I couldn't argue with people putting up Matata or Master Chewy or any of those kind of horses. Really, I couldn't make a strong argument against anymore. But my stance on this race was right from the start was it's really simple. It's a mess of a race, and I worked my way through the horses ahead of the market, and I strike the ones out I don't like for a reason. Ilete Tom, I'm not keen on his jumping at all. It's really sticky. Don't think Cheltenham's his track. Found a 50. As Jamie said, he has a habit of jumping out to the right. And I also, I'm not sure I agree with Jamie about the trip, because I think he'd probably be better at 2.5, actually. He struck me as though, he's one that wants to go out and trip, albeit what he did at the Dublin Racing Festival. Gaelic Warrior just won't come here. Why people bang that drum, I really don't know. Around a sharp left-handed track where they're on the turn all the time, we've seen it already with him. There's not a chance that Willie's sending him to that race. It would be so unwilly-like for him to do that. He goes to the turners. So the first one you come to now is Hunters Yarn with no experience. He's not a figure that, would interest you in a half-decent Arkle. Calixios, just no for me, really. JPR1, as you say, Dave, Matata is significantly better value at 4 times the price for half a length or a length or whatever it was when they met round there. So I'd probably go with the value there. My mate Mozzie will come here now. Well, in this kind of race, he can probably finish second to something. And you just keep working down and down and down. And then I say, well, look, right from the start, I thought it was Marine National beats Facile Vega. Marine National's out. Facile Vega's the bet.
Well, happy day. Again, music to my ears for saying that I've backed him anti-post. Part of the anti-post betting, right? I think when Sam Crow won that JLT all those years ago, everyone would have screwed up their slips. No one was betting him on the day, but sometimes they could come good a little bit later on. So let's see if he is there. Still, there's unknowns, isn't there, about where these two are going. I know people moan about anti-post and Cheltenham stuff. I don't mind. It's part of the puzzle, isn't it? But it's mad not to know even what the definite final field is going to be, especially when it's such a big player like a Facile Vega potentially coming here. We'll move on to the handicaps, because that's going to be the bread and butter of this evening, where we're going to make you very, very rich. Paul's words, not mine. Just for a few people that joined in after, £30 free bets going to someone, and you have to just comment Tiapu. We will pick one of you out there. Also, make sure you've liked the video. Right. The Ultima, I'm going to say very little on this, other than the fact that if Venetia Williams does run Victorino in this race, I haven't read anything or seen anything to be confirmed whether she will or she won't. I'd give it a chance, because it ran that Cheltenham day over the wrong trip. I would see that as some sort of tester. You wouldn't run the horse over the wrong trip intentionally, unless it was just to get experience, I think. And I do think his 3-mile form at Ascot's pretty decent. Even the one like behind Man, even when he got beat by 3 under 3-5, we know he's a good right-handed specialist. He's about 25 to 1. That is non-runner, like no bet. That's where my head's at the moment. If someone said to me, I've got a free bet to put on this race, then that's where I would think of going in terms of a bit of value, because I think he'd be a shortener if she did run him, but I don't know if she does. Paul, this has got to be your spotlight. The Naiad went out for a horse in this race. We talked about this quite a bit on the Sunday preview, and you did the race justice, to be fair. So I'll hand it over to you. Tell the viewers what they need to know when going into the Ultima, please.
Yeah, look, when I look at the handicaps, I tend to sort of get my head around the typical profile of each different race. And you've got, 5 of the handicaps I'm looking for value. And there's 4 of the handicaps. They tend to not be too hard to figure out. You're going to get the odd year where you get a shot winner. So it's worth just looking for something at a big price, just in case, just something in your pocket. But, I look at this kind of race, and the profile of horse that wins this race is not too difficult to find. When you look at these kind of handicaps, they don't tend to be too deep either, if I'm really honest, because you've got so many other good, valuable handicaps around at the same time. You've got the Irish National coming up, so a lot of the Irish horses are going to go there. You've got valuable handicaps at the Midlands National. You've got other races that are as valuable, also, within a couple of weeks either side, or in some cases more valuable, that potentially take less winning. So this race often doesn't end up very deep, and I don't think it's going to be very deep this year either. There's probably 5, 6, 7 horses you could have on your mind, really. That's it. And when you're trying to work through handicaps, that's a bit of a dream, because, the markets won't be priced that way. You might get something that's going to go off at 5 to 1 or 6 to 1 in this, but in handicaps that aren't deep, I look at these races and I pick out that 6 or 7 horses, and I start to think about it like a graded race. That's my approach to it. It's not it doesn't make the race that hard if you think about it that way. So the horse that I'm interested in this, the Naiad is the Goffer. I think that's got an outstanding chance. Davey was running around there with one arm last year or whatever he was doing. I'm not really sure. You know, he had plenty of time out, and, you know, for a classy jockey, he just wasn't in the position to do himself justice, and he didn't do the Goffer justice. You know, rode him out of position, literally rode him to the front of the race like a finish, you know, way too early, had him out front, and then he just didn't quite get home. He had, you know, you'd have seen Davey ride very few shockers over the years, but that was a proper shocker that horse got. And yet he still finished fourth, beaten by, you know, the horse that won the Grand National next time out, and the horse that's second favourite for the Gold Cup this year that's beaten Gallopin de Champs twice. And you start to look at that, you're not going to, you know, that's a freak year. You don't get that quality horse in the Ultimate. It's a complete freak of a year. And he's run not far behind those, you know, 6-7 lengths or whatever it was. I can't remember. It might have been 8 lengths in the end, fourth. Just not been able to hang on up the hill. You know, with a sensible ride, you know, you can go and look for every improver you like in this kind of race. You know, horses that are going to improve £5, £7, £10. But they're improving £5, £7, £10 to go and win an ordinary renewal. And last year wasn't an ordinary renewal. He's already been around there and proven it. And the Goffer for me is actually a really confident selection for this race. Horses that I can consider, Amorite. You've got Kim Bailey's got Chianto Classico in there and Trelawn, and I know a lot of people like those. And I know that Darryl likes Trelawn specifically. I'm still not 100% convinced that he comes to this race. I think Kim Bailey will split the two of them. One of them will go to Kim Muir. But he's got a bit of a dilemma there if you think about it. Chianti Classico ideally wants better ground. Trelawn's better on softer ground. Trelawn ideally wants more of a trip. Chianto Classico is probably about right at a sharper 3 miles like this is. So ideally for Kim Bailey, he would want dry ground on Tuesday and he'd want soft ground on Thursday when it's likely to be the other way around. So I think it's got a bit of a dilemma, and I don't think they've made their mind up what they're doing with those two horses, but I still think whichever one goes there, or even both, I still think they'll end up behind the Goffer. Am I right? I think it's got a nice chance on its back form, and, you know, it was very unlucky at Cheltenham early in the season, saddle slipped, etc., so it had excuses, but I do quite like that horse. We've got Apple Away or Giovinco. Both won't run, only one of them. I suspect if Apple Away gets in, she runs it. Giovinco will go for the turns most likely. She'll probably look at that race tomorrow and try and make a decision on whether Apple Away gets in. I wouldn't fancy Giovinco, actually. He's got no experience with big fields. You know, I'm not sure Cheltenham is necessarily going to be his course either. Stumptown's in there based on his form from last year in the Kim Muir. And the reality with him is he's gone up in the handicap, and he probably wants a bit more of a test of stamina as well, I think, in my opinion. But he's in the mix. So they'd be the horses that would be immediately on my list. If I was looking for something at a bigger price, I might look at Eldorado at the top of the handicap, or rock my way right down at the bottom of the handicap. The horse I haven't mentioned is Meeting of the Waters, which David Mullins said is a potential superstar. It's going to win the Grand National. It's going to win the Gold Cup. It's probably going to go win the Derby. You know, what an utter load of bollocks. I've never heard, you know, a Mullins talk so much shit, if I'm really honest. That horse is a decent horse. It's not overly well handicapped. It's got a race or two in it. You know, this is one of the softer handicaps, to be fair, but, you know, I see that as at best a horse that might place. And, you know, I'm quite happy to discount him for the winner in actual fact. So, you know, the Goffer is a really confident selection for me.
Happy days. Jamie, your thoughts on this? Because obviously I touched on it last night. Everyone will keep saying it in the comments as well. Irish don't have a very good record in this race. Not quite as long ago since I mentioned about them winning on there. But again, it's been put in the comments as well. They've definitely thrown a few more darts at it this year than they would in a typical year, haven't they? So I think maybe, I know we hit like trends are there for a reason, aren't they? I don't know. I feel like the Irish one this year, you could probably forgive it a little bit. What wins the Ultima in your eyes?
I had it down to 3, Dave, as like on Sunday. But look, the horse I really, really fancy is Am I Right, but I don't think he'll get the ground. It needs good ground. It really does. Like, do you know what I mean? I loved his run in the October meeting behind the Wacker clan. The saddle slipped up the straight, and probably a blessing in disguise that actually didn't win. But I don't think the ground's going to come in Rachel Blackmore's favour. But look, you never know. Might be under fresher ground. That's kind of put me off the Gaffer as well, slightly. Only reason is the ground. I think the Gaffer is better on better ground. Campaign fantastically. Got dropped £2 from last year. Won an all egg and spoon charity race the last day. As I said to you on Sunday, it was very interesting on that the meeting of the waters was entered in the same race that Paul has a share in a horse in, and like they were fishing for the mark, and they thought it'd get less than 145, say probably 145 in the bubble for Kim Muir. So they obviously think it's better than 147. Now I know it only won off 130 in the Paddy Power, but it won really well. Am I right? Was fifth, I think, in that race, beating about 11 lengths. The Am I Right's 142, the Gaffer's 147, and Meeting of the Waters 147. So look, we haven't won it since 2006 with Dundera. I think we'll win it this year, all right. If you put the gun to my head now with the forecast, the way the ground is, I know it's boring, but look, I think on the softer the ground, I think Meeting of the Waters will win, yeah. If the better the ground, the Gaffer or Am I Right wins. But if you put a gun to my head now, I would go with, I know it's a favourite, but I think it's between the three of them, and I'd probably slightly go with Meeting of Waters, but I've backed the Gaffer and I've backed Am I Right each way. I haven't backed Meeting of the Waters to win, no.
Yeah.
Jamie, if you haven't had a chance to go back and have a look, I'd go back and have another look at that race when Meeting the Waters and Am I Right met. You know, people talk about a lot of trainers and how they get them handicapped, and you know, Henry de Bromhead and Rachel Blackmore don't really come close to the top of people's lists for handicapping horses, but she didn't try. That horse was not off a yard, wasn't beaten very far, gets a big pull in the weight. So I'd have Am I Right all over Meeting the Waters, whatever the ground actually.
Nice. Right, we will keep it going because we want to be swift, but that's good. That's some decent insight in there. All things that need to be said. We loosely touched on the ground on a couple of occasions there. It's wet and it's soggy, and I know people will say that it dries quick there, but we're inside a week of what it's got to be at Cheltenham, right? I think you want to be erring on the side that it's going to be I'd say soft. Like they're going to be soft either in the main description or it's going to be good to soft, but we'll have to see. It's not going to be quick ground festival. It never is, though. And the sad thing is the clerk of the course will probably just declare it as good to soft because they just do that every year. Don't they just tick a box? Kev, I've just pulled your comment up because missed the first 20 minutes. Not really missed anything anyway. You obviously know the Naiad. You were there for it yourself. We talked about the Supreme and the Arkles loosely, but they could wait till the day. So you haven't missed anything. The only thing you have missed is I'm going to give away £30. I mean, I'm not. Someone gave it to us on Sunday. £30 bet up for grabs. So just mention Tiapu in the comments and you may have your chance of winning that. Let's move on to the Champion Hurdle. And then, Paul, I'll come to you first. How quickly do we move away from the Champion Hurdle?
Look, there's no bets there at the moment, are there? You know, everybody's disappointed that Constitution Hill's out. He's out. There's nothing really to talk about with that now. When the without markets reform, it's worth another look. And I'd probably be looking at something like Zarek the Brave, maybe, in the without market. And I think Gordon, I know he's talked about bringing Irish Point here. I think he's got to be tempted to bring Zana here, hasn't he? Given, you know, his form running onto a place in the last couple of Champion Hurdles. He's quite a big price still. So that'd be my only comment. You know, I've nothing that really to say with any conviction. Let's see some without markets and I'll have a look then. Statement wins as it is, doesn't it?
Fair enough. Well, viewers will find out later why what. Yeah, fair enough, mate. Viewers will see later why I hope that TFP doesn't come here. And I'll go back to a tweet I put earlier in the season. Novice chasing is far easier than open hurdling. I can see the case with Zanaher going there, but he's lost his novice status this year. And if he doesn't go in a race that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. Jamie, Champion Hurdle, is it worth talking about anything in there or should we move?
No, Irish Pint, I think. Look, probably like the softer ground if it runs in it, but I couldn't have it. Statement wins. I really hope, but they won't. But if there is a small bit of inkling that Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie hopefully grows a pair and puts Lassie out here, and I think Lassie will win if it runs. Yeah.
Zero.
But he won't. He won't. But he should. But look, statement wins.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll leave that as that, because that would be a discussion and a topic, etc., that could go on for a while. Let's move on to the Mayor's Hurdle. Let's assume that Willie Mullins will do Willie Mullins things and run a 4 to 6 shot in a 4 to 6 shot race rather than running it in a 7 to 2 point race where he's already got the winner. We'll assume that Lossiemouth is coming here. I'll just quickly lead off on this one because I talked about the fact that I was looking at each way bets in the race, right? In no way, shape, or form do I expect that Lossiemouth should get beat. She is plenty short enough, though. The couple that I mentioned on Sunday was Marie's Rock, because been there and done it. And yes, I know she's very inconsistent, but a lot of the girls are that's just the nature of the division. I know you can get a good one, like maybe a Lossiemouth's never going to be inconsistent, but from the realms of a place perspective, I can't see how Marie's Rock's out the frame, and especially at the price. She has been nibbling a little bit since Sunday, and I think the uncertainties of Lossiemouth, even though it is a certainty that she comes here, as far as I'm concerned, they are shorting up lots of horses, but nothing's really moving out. The other one that I suggested on Sunday was worth consideration was Tell Me Something Girl. Form with that race the year that Marie's Rock did win it. I think she's all right. I think of the ones that are in behind, she's better than a lot of the other ones. There will be 4 places up for grabs on the day, I suspect. I can't see those two outside the first 4. I mean, the prices have sniffed up a little bit, but you'll get most of your money back if one of them places. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility in a Mayor's Hurdle for something to fall at the last hurdle. We've seen it with Benny. We've seen it with them. You don't want to be betting in that way, but that was my way, sort of into the race, and I've done those. But Marie's Rock each way, but Tell Me Something Girl each way. I think Tony Keenan's put up Tell Me Something Girl as well tonight. She's 20's top price, been boosted to 25, so she may get nibbled in, not because I said so, maybe because he said it. Jamie, I'll come to you. Astro Diamond's one you've liked all season. Is she the bet at the moment? How do you see the race?
I wouldn't touch her now. 7 to 2, Dave. Obviously, if Lossiemouth came here, but I'm on at 7 or 8 to 1. I think I said that in the last in the anti-post video we did in January. I'm happy in my position. I'd be even happier if Lossiemouth goes away to the champion hurdle, but probably won't happen. But yeah, I'm happy with my position. But Lossiemouth runs here. Obviously, it will. I'm 9.9% sure she's running here. She wins, and Astro Diamond will follow her home.
Happy days. Something I did say on Sunday, which I haven't said now. I mean, I've not said it now because of the uncertainty around Ballyburn, but we were looking at the fact that there could be shorties on this day, Paul. 15 to 8-ish it would have paid for Ballyburn and Lossiemouth if you stuck those two in the double. The bookies are going to want to get them beat. So it's one of those that if Ballyburn does turn up in a Supreme and you like him and say a Lossiemouth, I know you could stick Statement in for the muggy treble, but maybe especially on the first day, I would say don't be afraid of putting a few quid on multiples if you haven't already got into them. Paul, did you think there was any bets for us to have in this race at this point?
No, look, maybe early season, I was thinking about ways to get Lossiemouth beaten. You start questioning her over the trip. But the more I thought about that as the season's gone on, she won over 2 miles, 1 near as damn it, on the new course, stiff new course. This is only 3 furlongs further on the sharper course. So, I've sort of fallen away from that sort of trip argument, if I'm really honest. She's so much better than the others. I think even if she was timed up the hill, as long as they've ridden her race, then she's still not going to get caught. So, yeah, I think Lossiemouth wins that, and I don't think it's too much time worth spending too much more time on the race, if I'm honest.
Happy days. A race that you do want to spend a little bit of time on, no doubt, is, I mean, for me, I want to say the puntiest type of handicap hurdle, but it's the handicap hurdle that I'm still scarred from Gaelic Warrior, so I can be asked. I do look at it. I can't be asked to get excited about one again in here. There was only a couple that I mentioned on Sunday. I don't know if I mentioned Kourosh actually for Dan Skelton, but I don't think it's going to run. Kourosh has got some levels of form where I think if this horse had a wind up, it's got more ability, but I don't believe he's going to come here. So I've mentioned the name. If he's a massive price and he gets in, I'm sure I'll tweet that again at some point, but don't think he does. Eagle Fang I quite liked, again, badly. He put cheap pieces on in a race with that Jose Partir, and I think the cheap pieces turned him off a little bit. So I think Eagle Fang's got some all right form to suggest that he's got a bit of a chance, but I think he's got about the chance that he's priced up as. I can see him being bigger. He's an unfancy trainer. Jose Partir has been nibbled in with those form lines that was between them, and I think a part of that may have been the price discrepancy between these two. But yeah, it's a windy enough race for me to try and bet into, so I'm going to look for the advice of the gentleman to tell us where to go. Paul, you would probably be all over this race, I imagine. How do the viewers play the Boodles, mate?
Well, I really like Jose Partir for this race. You guys know my view on Martin Brassil. He does not waste darts at all at Cheltenham. If he doesn't believe they're going there to win, they're not on the boat. So, clearly this horse has been messed around this year. We've not seen the best of this horse in any way, shape or form. Gets in this race off 126. Can't remember what the top weight's looking like at the moment, but 134, 135 maybe. So I think he will. He's my horse. I think the other one of Sean Moore Ryan's horse is Lark in the Morning. I'm not sure is even going to get on the boat. I don't think that horse is coming. I think the noises that Joseph O'Brien has been making, I think everybody should be listening to, should we say? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. That they're probably on there and they're backed at single figure prices and for reasonable amounts. And I can't say categorically that horse doesn't come, but I suspect it doesn't. I think Joseph O'Brien's horse for the race is Cossack Chach, or however you're supposed to pronounce that. And I think that's probably his better chance of the two in actual fact. I think there might have been a big game going on with Lark in the Morning. I like Batman Girac, although, I've heard mixed things about that horse out of the Runnings Yard, if I'm really honest. I'm kind of just going with what I think, and I think that's got a decent chance. Melantino would be the one, getting £10 back from the handicapper. They'd be the four on the top of my list. If you're looking at each ways, you look at horses like Callio's Son. If it gets in, that's a massive price. That's Gordon Elliott horse, Gigginstown horse, 50 to 1 or something. It needs a few to come out. I don't think it's going to get in, but if that got in, might be worth just a tickle, no run and no bet. I think Darryl likes Palamon. He made a really good case for that actually on Sunday evening. Which I did take notice of, but I'm kind of at the point where I don't really want to add one to the. I've actually backed the four I mentioned, those Patir, Batman Girac, Cossack Chach and Melantino, but 50% of my stake is on those Patir.
Yep, fair enough. A few guys in the comments are talking about Nara. I'll just give her a quick mention as well, because I did touch on her on the Sunday night. She had her first time up, didn't she? She was a non-runner after being found in season. She ran that last day where she was giving weight away when, in theory, against the boys, she should have been receiving it. She was well backed. Did look potentially suspicious. She had a lot of weight on her back, so you could excuse it. But I feel like she's one of those, as much as a few of them are in here, I think almost like an obvious one at the price, isn't she? So you'd obviously keep an eye how she goes. Jamie, I know you... I know you know your stuff. I can't remember what you said on Sunday, right? So the person that put the notes of me being pissed by the Arkle was probably right. Who did you land on for the Boodles? Tell me, if not just for the viewers.
Well, I was talking to Mr. Beck before we started, getting those about 5 points down us before we even started. And I said Lark in the Morning,
weren't we?
Yeah, and Mr. Beck says to me he ain't going, and I put up. Who did I put up? I put up Cossack Chach, yeah, and O's Partir, yeah, and Darryl made me. Then I went down to have a look at Palamon, and geez, that's good form behind it in the Dawi. Yeah, I wouldn't. I said I didn't have a strong opinion there. I don't like Batman Girac. I think he's a pig, and that's just me. And I'm not being smart to the horse. Still, a lot of people fancy him. And he'd be better in a faster run race, but I don't like his head carriage. Melantino, I suppose £10 was ridiculous, I think, from the handicapper, because he didn't run too badly when we were there standing next to each other in the November meeting, and he looked fine behind Burdett Row, but does he like winning races? Look, I know he's only run 5 or 6 times in his life, do you know what I mean? But I couldn't have been, even with the £10 drop, I couldn't be having him.
I'm not sure I'm trying with him though, Jamie, that's the thing.
I know, yeah. No, I just don't like him, Paul. I don't know. I just don't like him. But yeah, I suppose the best piece of form, if Lark in the Morning does come here, is like Nadawi obviously beat Palamon the last day, and yes, with a suspect ride from Palamon, but like Nadawi and Lark in the Morning finished close up together in that big 3-year-old maiden hurl at Leopardstown at Christmas behind Intelletto, and there ain't much between them. And now there's a £12 difference in handicap between Nadawi and Lark in the Morning. But yeah, the other one, I'll get on quickly there swiftly. Cossack Chach, I think, is being campaigned, the best wine campaign for Joseph O'Brien, on the form of the second time Buju. And I don't think Buju probably won't turn up here, but I thought it should have beaten Buju that day at Downright with a bit more experience. And Buju was having its spot second or third run by then. and now it's on after going to win at Newbury and Doncaster. So I wouldn't give up. I definitely give that a chance each way. Cossack check. But yeah, I'm not really strong on anything there. But I backlacked in the morning ages ago. Right, I don't know what price I got. Trying to look back at my bets, but I'm kind of with Paul here. Like, if this Stark in the morning don't turn up, I know his Partier turns up. Yeah, I'd be backing that on the day anyway, for definite.
Fair enough. So hopefully you guys have got that in the viewers and the comments, etc. You guys will understand what's been said there. And the boys have already mentioned as well, Darryl was pretty sweet and made a pretty good case on that Pamela, wherever it is. Palamalon. Made a good case for it, and still an okay-ish price now. I can imagine that's going to be one that does shorten up coming into the week, because I think it's not just him making the case. There are a lot of horses that have been mentioned, and there's a lot of horses that have been backed, as I touched on earlier. A lot of stuff is shortening up once we get the declarations coming in, or we're getting 6-day decks from tomorrow, aren't we, for what's going on, or confirmations towards it. Markets are going to start to move a little bit, and the bookies will just get tighter and tighter. Obviously, we've got a change in the way that things are in the world these days. 48-hour declarations is fantastic, but you've got to remember best odds guarantees is gone. So when you used to be able to bet things at declarations, knowing you get best odds guarantee when they drifted and back out, there is going to be money coming in for horses at the final decks, but then you've got to actually work if you really want to keep the bet. Long gone are the days where you could pretty much just back every market mover and then wait to the day to decide whether you wanted to keep it or not. But that should have a positive influence in the market. I think on the day they're going to be strong as you like, and that will go for the exchange as well. Right, National Hunt Chase. I can be quick on this one. I think Corbett's Cross is the best horse in the race. I don't think I could probably trust him or bet him at the price that he is. I don't really like Embassy Gardens, but I couldn't really give you a substantial reason as to why. And Salvador Ziggy was just one of those that ticks the profile type stuff. I would be a little bit worried about him in the ground. I think the market is priced as where it should be with them. Some of them are shortening up, more so because Broadway Boy's been confirmed to go to the Brown Advisory today by Willie Twiston Davis. I will just quickly note on Corbett's Cross, right? We had Ben Hasty there, former head groundsman. And when we had the replays running up, we were all getting annoyed at multiple times, whether it was Stumptown or Jerry Colomb or whatever it was. He wasn't happy when he saw Corbett's Cross running out, because the gap that was there isn't supposed to be there. So I haven't gone back and watched previous Albert Bartletts. I can't say I've noticed it in the past, but apparently the way that the course was set up on the Friday, there shouldn't have been a gap. So he would say I know the horse might look like he's quirky. He would say it wasn't the horse's fault that happened. There should not have been a gap there for it to look like he could have gone through. So I'm probably more forgiving of that than I would have been before. Anyway, Jamie, National Hunt Chase, you got the winner for this, right?
Yeah, I'm happy with my position, Dave, on Salvatore Ziggy from the early ones, 16s and 14s each way. With the forecast soft ground now, Corbett's Cross is definitely going to come into it. He is technically the fastest horse in the race, but as I said on Sunday, if they sprint towards the finish, I'd be seriously worried about him jumping the second last. Look, we know the fences are soft, but I just worry about him jumping. So when the taps are turned on, the ground is definitely come for Embassy Gardens, and I wouldn't put you off. But I think it's been unoriginal. I don't think there's going to be a winner outside the first three in the betting, to be honest with you. If you put a gun to my head with the forecast off ground now, as like I said on Sunday, I think Embassy Gardens would win. Yeah. I just for me, I think he'll win. He's just a sounder jumper than Corbett's Cross, and he's probably a little bit better than Salvatore Ziggy. But yeah, I would go with Embassy Gardens now at this current moment of time, week out.
Yeah, Paul, how do you see it, considering we've got a couple of 2-1 joint favourites and 4-1 in behind? Field will probably be big enough that then I suspect we might get 8 runners in this last year. I was going for it earlier, so there should be 3 places up for grabs. Do punters bet now? Do they wait? Do you have the winner?
Well, I think I'm in a similar position to Jamie. I backed Salvador Ziggy anti-post at the big price, and lots of people listening to this will be in the same position. But with this rain coming, I've become less and less sweet on him. I think he wants good soft ground to be at his best. And it's not a bad National Hunt Chase. It's not the best National Hunt Chase we've had, but I just see other horses of similar ability performing on this ground. Embassy Gardens I think beats him now, but I'm actually really sweet on Corbett's Cross. I think he is the best horse in this race. He's the classy horse. They don't go overly quick generally in this race, so as long as he stays 3 miles, he'll get 3 miles 6. I wouldn't have an issue with that. His jumping has been a concern, but Cheltenham's fences are amongst the softest in the country. Everybody that's listened to this has seen that picture of of Grey Dawn and literally jumping through the middle of a fence and still only being beaten a couple of lengths. You know, you can get away with mistakes around Cheltenham these days that you never used to be able to, and horses can go through fences largely unchecked. I'm not sure they'll hold him up so far out of his ground as they have done so far this season. I did wonder about the motivation for some of the rides that he got, should we say? But they found themselves to the Grade 2. It's probably the right race for him. I think he's the class out to the third, and I think he just wins.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, we will move on to Wednesday. I'll remind you guys in the comments again, £30 free bet up for grabs. If you put the comment Tiapu, I'll pick one of you. I'll do that at the end of day 2, just so you haven't got to stay up all night. We're obviously live now. Hang on if you can, but if not, it will continue the recording. Best bets for day 1, gentlemen. I'll stick with what I said on Sunday and following Paul's earlier line of no one's got a strong fancy in the Arkle. No one's going to nap in the Arkle. Especially no one money back. Matata each way, I think at 20s is a massive bet. And I do think as well, when you get the extended places, I don't know if the price will shorten up or not, but I'd fancy Matata each way strong in this. I know he's a bit of a dog, but he can dog it and come second like Champagne Fever. It just won't be a 6-4 poke. It'll end up being a 20-1 poke, hopefully. Paul, your best bet for the first day?
Yeah, clearly the Goffer. And I wouldn't put anybody off a first day each way double with those Parterre either.
Ooh, I like you are getting juice, aren't you? Right, Jamie, your best bet for day 1?
I'll go with what you said earlier in the season, Dave. I'm being loyal to at the prices and the class act in an Arkle. Really, he is like, and it's Facile Vega 13-2 for the Arkle. Yeah, Facile Vega all day.
Just a matter of interest, because of Marine and Constitution coming out. You can look at that day 1. Willie Mullins feasibly could win all 7 races.
Yep.
The complexion of day 1 has changed so fundamentally. He could win all 7 races.
But what did I say on Sunday? It's going to be 7-0 to Ireland by Tuesday night.
You did.
Right, let's move on. We've not done too bad for time because I did waffle for a little bit. Just over 40 minutes for the start section, probably less than 40 minutes for what we talked about. Let's go in, right? But the bar in Bingham, the Gallaghers, whatever you want to call it, Ballymore, it's tricky, right? Because we're not doing this just to specifically talk about exactly what we talked about on Sunday, but things have changed since Sunday. Again, the shortening, you'll see the blue on odds checker will be more, not necessarily more driven, but will be driven a lot by the fact that the exchange have shortened up quite a bit. Bookies do things with their liabilities. And yes, in this instance, they have pushed a couple of horses out, but it's a horrible looking market if you start to now think that Ballyburn does run in here, because you make the case for Ballyburn out the race, you give lots of horses chances. Ballyburn's in the race, and all of a sudden you wouldn't give the same horse the same chance. I think the general vibe on Sunday, which you guys can correct me on if I'm out of it, is we thought Mystical Power was going to come here, and I guess, well, I know I did, and I think Jamie and Darryl was similar. Like, we thought Mystical Power had a proper chance. We don't know anything just yet, but I don't think he is going to come here. I just think it looks like a bit of a minefield of a race, to be honest with you. I'm a big fan of Chapeau de Soleil, and Willie Mullins said that he'll come here, but I don't know if he will. I think he might still go Bartlett. Predator's Gold, I think, it's got a bit of ability. Just think there's a lot of horses that are in here that probably look about a grade 2 type horse, and then you get something like, I thought either Mystical Power or Ballyburn would be the grade 1 horse. If either of those two come in here, I'd say that they'll win it, but that's not telling you guys anything you don't know. Paul, I'll come back to you on this one, mate. Again, slightly different to how we looked at it on Sunday. I think we took it for a given that Ballyburn was going for the Supreme. It may still be the same case, right? But what are your thoughts now, talking about the Gallaghers?
Yeah, I mean, from my own Cheltenham book position, I'd love Ballyburn to come here. It'll be a more successful festival for me if he does. I still just don't think he does come here. So I'm going to talk about it as though he doesn't. So,
okay.
My selection of the rest would be Il Atlantique. I thought he was really unfortunate the last time. Everybody's now saying, he's the next Archibald, and that's just unfair and untrue. I think he's a grinder and a galloper, to be fair. But I think he's one of those horses with a high cruising speed that I quite like for this kind of race. Look, he was beaten by a horse that really benefited by the way the race unfolded. Inadvertently being held up, because that wasn't the intention with reading Tommy wrong. He just ended up there because he made a couple of fiddly mistakes over the first 2 hurdles. They went so hard at the front that he benefited from that pace collapse. The only horse that was still running on was the Atlantic. Now, they are not going to go actually as fierce a gallop as that, even though this is a Cheltenham Championship race, because they went too quick. And I'm not sure there's anything of any real quality behind him, if I'm honest. I'm assuming reading Tommy wrong is going to go to the Albert Bartlett. I can't not be interested if he comes here, because there is a direct form line between the two, but, I don't think he does. Sladesdale, I just think he's short of the best, if I'm honest. I know Jamie thought he might have a chance somewhere at the head of the market if Ballyburn comes here in the Supreme, but I just think he's just a bit short. I think the one that would interest me at a big price actually is Mercury. Everybody says don't back William Mullins second strings in these races, but there's just no depth in this market at all. You've got Predator's Gold that's probably going to offer third favourite when you take out those that don't run. So if you want to talk about horses that get beaten and are short, then he's definitely one of them. And Mercury, we know, has a bit of backclass about him, and I think he's too big a price. So I think he'd be interesting each way.
Happy days. Jamie, we sort of know your thoughts. We talked about it in the Supreme about Ballyburny stuff. I mean, speak about the race how you want to speak about it. Maybe go back to that magical time on Sunday when we felt like it was a sure thing he was going to go for the Supreme, and all your prayers have been answered. What's your thoughts on the race? Do you want to just say it as you saw it before, or you want to give a mention to the fact that he might come here?
Well, if Ballyburn comes here, that means they think Atlantic is no good, and I totally agree. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go against you. Look, I said on Sunday, Atlantic, I can't see it out of the first 3. But look, if Ballyburn comes here, that means that Atlantic is no good. That's just my opinion. And no disrespect to the horse. He's a decent horse. I think he'd be better over a fence. There's no doubt about it. But as I said to you on Sunday, he's soft at the finish. There's no doubt in my mind he's soft in the finish. He was beaten by Firefox, Stellar Story in bumpers. He's been beaten by Reading Tommy Round when he looked like he should have won the race. Do you know what I mean? And Reading Tommy Round kick hurdles out of the ground and still beat it in Atlantic. So I just couldn't have him. But each way purpose, if you're on a decent price, if there's no Ballyburn, he's definitely going to be in the first 3. There's no doubt about that. As I said on Sunday, me and Daryl agreed on the 2 horses to win purposes. Is Mystical Power has to come here. As they go slow here at the start, and it turns into a sprint. To me, to my eye, Mystical Power is the fastest horse. And look, if Mark Walsh could keep a lid on him all the way around, there's nobody better be quicker than that horse up the straight. No doubt in my mind. The other one I said is I like Predator's Gold here. I think it was given not a great ride by Townend in the Nathaniel Lacey. Dancing City won that race and is going to the Albert Bartlett, not without a chance. But I think if that race was ran again and it wasn't such a glue pot at the Dublin Race Festival, Predator's Gold would have beat Dancing City hands down over 2 miles 6, back to 2.5 miles, 2 miles 5 here. Predator's Gold has a right chance each way, I think. But at the moment, Mystical Power to win and Predator's Gold each way if Ballyburn does come here, because if Ballyburn comes here, it'll win easy.
Happy days. Right, we'll move on to the Brown Advisory, unless that's changed sponsorship in the last 24 hours. So much stuff's changed, isn't it? This is the case where tomorrow Turf Tracks will do a report, and it's good to firm all over at Cheltenham. It's been that year, innit, where there's confirmed information one day, next day it's gone. One thing that is confirmed is that Willie Mullins is fully aroused by Factor Val. This horse has obviously been like a big talking horse. Tell you what is interesting though, and I know it is almost irrelevant. I'll say this is like a little quick liney bit in, because I do like those hype horses, right? You don't get it very often. The Imperial Pious hype, all that sort of stuff. Like you do get these horses every year that get a bit of hype around them. Very few of them. Someone's probably got some sort of spreadsheet, someone that captures them. Very few of them don't run to expectation. But you see horses like American Mike being supplemented to come into this race. You see Broadway Boy opting to come for the seemingly harder option here versus that. Even with Grey Dawn in, it looked like Dan Skelton has said that he was definitely going to go for the Turners. But, I mean, I see, again, the exchange stuff would suggest it hasn't been a foregone conclusion. I know ground could have an impact on there, but he doesn't seem to be scaring away a lot of rivals, I would say, Factor File. So it's a reasonably deep race, but we're probably still getting a fair enough price on him. He is odds against on the exchange. As far as it stands in this race, I've had a couple of anti-post bets. I feel like I'm in an okay position, but I'd still be relatively happy to be betting Factor File and certainly putting him in some multiples, given it's the second race on the second day. I think Factor File is the one that wins. The only thing that kills me a little bit in my head is I don't really trust the substance of the form. The race at W Race Festival where Gaelic was there, I know that people will say about speed and things like that, but Gaelic jumped straight enough, didn't he? There wasn't an issue after, and he was out on his own doing his own fraction. So it's a terrible, terrible bit of jockeyship from Paul Townend for him to get the fractions so severely wrong that it made him look like that. But if we'd have had a third horse and Gaelic Warrior was 60 clear of that, then I don't know, there'd have been more context with it. But who needs context when you're dealing with Willie Mullins? Paul, I'm going to come straight back to you on this. We'll make you go last again, Jamie. I know you're really sweet on Factor File. When you did your Twitter talk not so long ago, straight after the Naiad, best bet of the meeting was Factor File. Was that right, Nap of the meeting?
Yeah, exactly that. I think this horse is just an absolute superstar. This horse, and I've said it, you guys know, I said it on one of these that we did at the end of last year. Anybody that knows me has heard me saying this now for probably 4 months. This horse is that good. You know, I'm confident that it wins next year's Gold Cup. It beats Elay Francais. It beats Galopin de Champs. You know, it wins next year's Gold Cup. It's that good. You know, and what's he facing? You know, in this Stay Away Faye that probably should. You know, Stay Away Faye probably needs the trip of the National Hunt Chase. Ironically, he looks like a future national type horse to me. Sharpish, 3 miles around there. I don't think really suits him. We saw the kind of gallop that Factor File could keep up around Leopardstown. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I know what you're saying there, Dave, about, you know, it's hard to peg that form given, you know, Gaelic Warrior didn't run its race and it was out on its legs, it was out on its feet. This is a horse that's been running around, you know, putting up good fractions and winning over you know, that trip, and it just got smashed. Factor File just ran it into the ground. It could not go. It just couldn't go any further. Yet Factor File was still running through the line. You know, those kind of horses don't come around very often rather. So, you know, I think you just appreciate what he is, and you know, if everybody's kind enough to allow us to back him now at 6-4, then you know, keep topping up. That's my view.
Yeah, and that's the big thing with the exchange as well. Obviously, those markets will close at final declaration. So if you're into trading or any of that type of stuff, you've got to get in and out of your positions before then. But yeah, he's odds against on the exchange. There's a couple of them we'll talk about tonight that compared to the price they are with the sports books are reasonable-ish enough prices. And obviously you don't get your money back on any of them anyway until final markets on Betfair. Jamie, we like this race typically. It's always got some good horses in there. Your summary of the RSA, please, mate.
Yeah. Can't put you off. Factor File wins. Stay Away Faye can have on the course. Now, if this was the new course, I would give Stay Away Faye a good chance, but on the old course, no. And he needs further. Look, it's a good run between Capitano and was it Real Backer? Are they any good, really, if you think about it? One horse I don't like here, Dave, is Monty Star. I just don't see the hype of this horse, to be honest, Joe. Good jumper, but to me, it looks like an International Hunt Chase as well. It's slow. Great jumper, but slow. But look, the ground might have come for him. Great Dawning, I think, with the ground will probably go to the Turners now. I don't think he'll stay 3 miles on soft ground at Cheltenham. And +2 when it comes to the second last goes markedly to the left. And I'd hate to be on the inside of that horse. But yeah, just short and sweet. Nothing will be Factor File here.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's some Chris, you had to mention it in the comments, didn't you? I'm going to move on quickly because we don't want to stay on this for too long. But Broadway Boy got thumped by Florin Porter, and Florin Porter's going to run in the stairs hurdle. I know Florin Porter wouldn't have been Factor File, but fuck me, he would have beaten a few of these, I'd imagine. But never mind. He's not here, and I'm not bitter about it in the slightest. Coral Cup, I mean, it's the handicap, so you would expect that I'd be handing this to Paul. We're going to make Paul wait on this race. Paul, you're going to go last. I will go first. I'll take centre stage for the Coral Cup because it's fairly straightforward. But I'll be as quick and concise as I can, right? Langadan, we know what Langadan's like this time of year, but I will just say people probably have already bet him. People for the FOMO will want to have a couple of quid on him. His Betfair SP is always much bigger because he's an out-the-back merchant type horse. He'll be a bigger price than he is now. We don't know if he's going to turn up or what type of Langadan's going to turn up. He bleeds all that sort of stuff. So we're talking about him potentially being a favourite for this race. I know same with Jessica Come here, but I don't know. they're holding up a lot of the market towards the front. Doddy the Great still might not actually get in, but would obviously be very well respected in there. And you'd give them bits of chances, right? But the one that I am pretty keen on, still a big price as far as I'm concerned, Ballyadam, 20-1 for this race, 5 places up for grabs. I mean, he might not be a massive shortener. I think he was 12-1 for the county last year, but it was 50 for the county behind State Man. Come 5th in both of those races. He does need a step up in trip. He ran behind Gaelic Warrior last season at Dublin Racing Festival, and obviously Gaelic Warrior is a very well handicapped horse. I don't think he had a Coral Cup entry last year. Could be wrong on that, but they ran him in the county anyway. Then they stepped him up at Punchestown to 2 mile 3 furlongs. Go and have a watch of that race if you can't remember it from last year, because I think tactically they've just got Ballyadam wrong in those races. He got caught for a turn of foot, Mikey O'Sullivan, in the turn in. I think Ballyadam could have won that with a better ride last year. I'm hoping this time they're going to be a bit more positive. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit like Campron from last year, except Ballyadam does see it home. So for all that Doddy the Great and Langadan could be bits of threats, they're going to be hold-up horses. Hopefully the Bromhead stable watch YouTube and watch Cheltenham and make more use of Ballyadam and send him on a little bit earlier. I genuinely cannot see this horse out of the 5, and I think he's actually got a winning chance. The last bit of form I'll just touch with him is that Irish Point form at Christmas was on really bad ground when he was within half a length of Asterion Forlonge, which I know you'll probably laugh and say Asterion Forlonge. I think Asterion Forlonge is probably a shorter price for the Stairs hurdle than Ballyadam is for this. So he's run close to like a 150s-ish horse. He stayed far enough with Irish Point up until like the second last hurdle there. And Irish Point is clearly a stone better horse than him. But Ballyadam's in here off of a number that I think is meaning that he can run well. I know he doesn't tick the box on a lot of trends, but I can't believe he's a 20-1 poke. I do like the horse, but I can't see him outside the frame. So Ballyadam's a fairly strong fancy in the Coral Cup, if my pitch didn't make you realise that. Jamie, Coral Cup, you're a bit different to me in this one, but...
No, I don't really have a fancy in it, Dave, to be honest. Look, the one I mentioned, obviously, was First Street. Look, Sam Majest, obviously, if it comes here, does have a chance off 140. There's no doubt about that. But would I be backing him after beating Noble Yates in a bog round Limerick where they crawled? Not for me, but he might get the ground like that. He leads, probably, at the present moment in time. First Street is about a pound higher than he was second the State Man in the county hurdle. So, this is his trip now. He's been running around in greater races. The only one I'd say as well, Dave, but the only thing I don't think he'll go on the soft ground. But look, if it dried out a bit, there's potential. You just don't know where the weather is going at the moment, but at the moment it's soft. But it got better. A friend of mine texted me, he said, back Brazil to win the Coral Cup. And he said it to me ages ago. Look, he won a mile and 4 Premier Handicap at Galway last year. And he came back to a bit of form, did nothing in the Cesarovich, ran in that big, didn't try hard in that 2 mile race at the Dublin Race Festival, won by Lord Erskine. But look, Boodles and Triumph horses, they need an extra half mile, when they get older. And just the type of thing that he comes back to form when you don't expect him, like he did last year at Galway. He's ready to in and out horse. But look, I'd be worried on the soft ground. If it got a bit better towards the Coral Cup, I wouldn't put you off him, because I think he's been campaigned with a big handicap hurdle in mind this year. So, look, he really is a stab in the dark. I don't really fancy, but look, if you want to back him each other, that's fair enough. But yeah, First Street for me in Brazil, but they're not confident choices in a million years, no.
Yeah, fair enough. Paul, I know you did have a confident fancy in this one, and you echoed your thoughts by Daryl Carter. We haven't mentioned Daryl's stuff for a little while, have we? But Daryl thought the same of you on one particular horse in here. Do you want to give us your run through on a few of them? And you remember which one was the one you both agreed on, right?
I certainly do, yeah. So look, this race for me, over the years, I actually have a really good record in it. It always looks like one of the harder handicaps of the week, but there's some fairly simple rules you can apply. You're looking for an Irish horse, or you're looking for a Henderson horse, or you're looking for Langadan. They're the rules to apply, really. But the other interesting thing is that last time out winners have a fantastic record. And there's only, if you use that group of horses, there's only one horse that was the last time out winner, and that's built by Ballymore. And as I said before, when we were talking about the Boodles, Martin Brasil does not waste bullets. That horse is either wins or goes very, very close. Ground's going to be perfect for it. I actually at home is a really strong fancy. Other horses that I considered for the race, I think Sam Majestic will come here now. I think it was confirmed today that Mikey O'Sullivan rides Kay de Bourbon in the Martin Pipe. And I think that will probably push Sam Majestic here. Also, the way the weather's been and the chance of it drying up towards the end of the week, I think they'll probably take the chance here as well. I think he wants soft ground. I think he'll get his ground in this race. He might not get it in the pipe. So I think it probably makes sense to run him and not take the chance. I suspect most people just backed him for both races, no run and no bet, if they fancied the horse. So, I'm probably not telling anybody anything they don't already know. The two Henson horses that would be of interest, I don't think Doddy the Great will get in. And I actually prefer his more experienced horses in this race, actually. No Ordinary Joe clearly has been campaigned with the festival in mind. Let's put it this way. They haven't been trying too hard to win, shall we say. Completely agree with Jamie on First Street. He's probably the class act of the race, actually. He's just below champion hurdle class, and he gets in off, is it 141, Jamie?
143 or 142 anyway. Yeah, it's about. Yeah, I think it's 142. He was in the county. He's 143 now for the Carl. I'm almost certain. It's a pound.
Yeah.
It's a pound.
And look, as you say, this is his trip now. I think they've done a really good job of campaigning this season, actually, to get the mark they've got, and I think it's probably been deliberate. So, you've got the issue with the Henson horses, where do you trust that they're well enough? And I think you've got to trust they're well enough if they're on the horse box and they turn up on the day, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think that's the way to view it. Not all the horses get sick in yards unless it's right, in which case none of them are coming. So I'd trust him to send them there fitting well. But there is no doubt there is something going on in the yard. I think we have to accept that. But with all these handicaps, they do throw up shocks. I think we've had two big prize winners in the last 3 years: Commander of Fleet, and I can't remember what the other one was. Heaven help us, 33-1 as well. So 50-1 and 33-1 shots in the last 3 years. So it pays to look beyond those horses as well. Just to have a nice each way in your pocket somewhere. That's what you've done, Dave. I think Bally Adam fits that kind of bill nicely. I think Beacon Edge actually fits that bill nicely. I think he has a run style that suits this race as well. Probably would be better on a bit better ground, I think. And he went through, which race was it? Which hurdle race was it that he ran in most recently? Can't remember.
Galmoy or the Boyne?
I think it was the Galmoy, actually, that has a really good record. Gordon Elliott specifically has a good record of running the Galmoy down the field and then coming here. Tends to be a bit of a plan, and he's done that with Beacon Edge. And I'd forgotten that it was with Gordon Elliott and not with Noel Meade, and I missed him initially, but picked it up later. So, he'd fit the bill. Guard Your Dreams, I think, also had some considerable time out. He's come back running over 2 miles, and behind Lossiemouth, not too far behind actually. After 2 years out, or the best part of 2 years out, over 2 miles, well, he will be a better horse over 2.5, and ran pretty well last time as well. He's dropped like a stone in the handicap. I think he could be on a really nice mark. So if you look at the older group, they'd be the 3 that I'd focus on for an each way bet. But again, I'll have 2, maybe 3 darts in this race, but the majority of my stake will be on Built by Ballymore.
Yeah, fair enough. Probably a good time to mention with that what you're saying about having a couple of darts in there, block bets, all those types of things. If you don't know about them, or you haven't done them before, I do always advocate them, especially for the Cheltenham Festival. It's not very often you get so many stellar handicaps literally rolling into the next couple of days. I think it's important to do that. Don't be put off if you fancy a handful of horses in races. Stick them into them each way doubles and things like that, moving into the next days. You can get some pretty decent returns for pretty small outlays. You haven't got to be sticking chunks on these handicaps. I mean, unless it's on the Goffer, according to Paul. Get it all in. Right. Coral Cups, I think we've successfully done that. Champion Chase, I mean, I don't want to be rude to the championship races because they are championship races, but there's only one championship race we actually need to talk about this evening, and even that won't take very long. This one takes no time at all, surely. El Fabiolo does just win. I had a couple of people independently ask me today, what am I going to do with John Bon on the day, suggesting that I might end up betting him. I mean, I just need to void that now. I've got no interest in having a bet in the Champion Chase. I know some of you boys might already be invested, but is there any bet right now that the viewers should be considering for the Champion Chase, whether it's to strike now or to wait till the day, or do we just sit back and let El Fabiolo mop the floor with him again, Jamie?
Yeah, El Fabiolo wins, Dave. And look, I wouldn't put anyone. Look, it's up to you. Look, I'll have a soft spot for Edwardstone. John Bond, to me, I can't have him. I'll always have a soft spot for Edwardstone if he's ridden the way he ran in Newbury, but I'm sure they will. Like, they're saying, they might go back to the other way, but I doubt it. It's only just playing ball, as I call it. No, he'll just go out in front and set it up for El Fabiolo, and Fabiolo win with his mouth open.
All right, Paul, same sort of thought process.
El Fabiolo, no point in spending any time on it.
Happy days. Let's move on, right? This race won't take very long either. I'm just going to say 3 words, and I think that pretty much just sums it all up. 2.9. 2.9 on the going stick. Christ almighty.
2.9 on the going stick. You boys would have known virtually unraceable. That is
virtually unraceable.
It's mad, isn't it? And I know things can change, but typically that is the wettest part of the racetrack for everything. Doesn't particularly like it is what it is. You can see it on the readings. As much as things might dry out, you'd have to be bonkers to think that the cross country is going to dry out enough to not be soft, probably heavy in places. I would believe. You saw it in a video I've already put up earlier this season. I fancy Delta Work. I still think he's a bit of a stupid price, if I'm honest. I really don't believe that Manila Indo will stay in testing conditions. His best form is on bad ground. Well, I mean, you can pick and choose bits of form, can't you? But I think he's got good form on heavyish ground. That handicap run he had at Cheltenham, as much as people liked the look of that, it was in his favour in terms of conditions. I know, obviously, he was giving weight away, but I just go back to when Tiger Roll ran a handicap race at Cheltenham, and if the race had been going for another couple of furlongs, Tiger Roll would have passed all of them. Manila Indo would have just been going further and further away from him there. So I think it's a different type of good performance, like good weight carrying performance. I'm surprised that he's as short as he is, Manila Indo, especially with what's going on there. Lots could change with the weather, but Delta Work, as far as I'm concerned, just shits home in the cross country. It's not even a question. I'd imagine there must be some question marks whether they'll even run Galvin at all if the ground's going to be as it is. But Paul, cross country.
Yeah, look, I don't really disagree with anything you said there. I think Manila Indo traditionally has run his best races on decent ground. You know, it's not that he doesn't go on softer ground, but he's not the same horse. Delta Work is. You know, he can go around there blindfold at the same time as Manila Indo needing a sat nav. So Galvin, you know, I think there's probably virtually no chance of Galvin turning up now, if I'm honest. You know, it'd have to seriously dry out, and I don't think anybody thinks that course is going to be anything other than soft come on Wednesday. Cocoa Beach is, you know, being lined up for succession. Probably will run a decent race, I have to say. You know, it's a genuinely admirable horse, that is. You know, and they'll probably play a bit of catch me if you can with him, maybe. They'll certainly have him prominent by halfway. But Delta Work, really. I don't think it's worth spending too much time on the race.
Yeah, happy days. Jamie, cross country thoughts?
Manila Indo won't stay in that ground anyway, Dave. I agree with you now that Galvin is a very doubtful runner with the ground. Delta Work should win. I will mention one horse, and people will probably laugh at me for it, but like the way he was impressed of him, really soft ground over the banks of Punchestown. Look, he's probably a level below, obviously, a Galvin Delta Work. I mean, like Cocoa Beach has to come into it now. If it's really that bad, he'll relish the soft ground. There's no doubt about that. Like, it'll bring in a Foxy Jacks each way, but he's miles behind in the handicap. Do you know what I mean? And the ratings wise, but it does really bring in Cocoa Beach to the race, I will say. I'd have it now between Delta Work and Cocoa Beach, but the class act is Delta Work, and you'd have to go for them. He's won two years in a row, and the ground year would be Tiger Road was plenty soft enough. So look, 3-1 is huge.
Yep, I like that. We'll stick with that one. There's a few people joining in a little bit later. Yes, we did say that 2.9 was the going stick on the cross country. That is basically, like Paul says, unraceable. And also for a few of you that are late, it'll be the last time I say it because very soon I'm going to announce the winner. We'll wait for the race itself. £30 free bet's been put up kindly by someone on Sunday. We're using it for tonight. Mention or just say the word Tiapu in the comments. Make sure you like the video, and one of you will be picked. I don't know why I was going to do inverted commas. Picked at random. It will be at random. I'll wiggle the mouse, and then one of the boys can say stop. That didn't sound appropriate, did it? Grand Annual, Paul. This is a nice handicap for us to get stuck into. The only ones that have really been on my radar for this type of race, like Saint-Ouen, feels a little bit like Languedoc, but without the issues in that I don't know how you could actually want to bet him after how he's been running this season, and he's still, I think, too high a mark to be plotty. Harper's Crook's been ruined by maybe the start of the gamble by Kevin Blake because he was a bit of a wise guy one, but as much as he's could be like a Sky Pirate Mark II in the fact that dropping in trip might be the reason why he looked like a dog. He's definitely a dog, because he didn't get asked the last day. So I think as soon as he gets ridden, he's going to fold like a deck chair. Path de Rue was one that I always liked. We liked him the last day. Jumping was in there, and the fact that Gavin Connor's going to run him is still give him a mention. But I think Unexpected Party for me is a bit too big a price. We know that Skelton's probably trying to run all three of them: Fred Arms, Calico, and Unexpected Party. But Unexpected Party, you'll see there's as big as 20 to 1. He's been running a lot of his races over 2.5 miles, hasn't he? We probably got an inflated rating for beating Nappers Hill at the start of the season at Chepstow when it was just a match. But he is down £8 since then. They tried him in the Henry VIII Novices Chase. Tactically didn't look very good, and it was a change of jockey as well. The race that JPR won fell in, that Hon Public won. This horse would have been a short price favourite for, and thankfully someone that I know told me he wasn't going to run, so we managed to get on JPR 1 at a price, which didn't matter anyway because he fell. But I just think Unexpected Party, right? I don't think he would be as plotty as you could probably make him out to sound, but I do think he's not a 2.5 miler. I think he could be suited to this race, and while I would be a little bit surprised if he won. I don't think it's out the realms of possibility. I do just think he's probably a good each-way bet. So again, one of those ones to probably stick in the block bet, Unexpected Party for this race. Paul, you probably have a better handle on this one than I do. I don't seem to have the best record in the Grand Annual, if I'm honest. I seem to pick a lot of seconds in this, or they go and win at Aintree. So probably worth mentioning that too, right? A lot of the horses we'll mention for these, they might dot up at another festival. So don't mark them off your radar. But Paul, we don't care about the other festivals. Cheltenham's what it's all about. Who did you tell us on Sunday would win the Grand Annual? How did you whittle it down?
Well, let's just take Dan's horses first. Look, you can make cases for all three of Dan's horses, actually. And the reality is, I've got the connections to the yard with the horses there, but I just think I can make better cases for others. I think I can make better cases for others. I marginally would have a preference for Fred Arms, actually. But I think there's a doubt he gets in. The horses that I like, look, the ones that that fit the right profile. You've got Madaro and in Excelsis Dio. That's a mouthful. Just a little bit concerned about an Excelsis Dio, getting a little bit left behind again, and it's jumping, but it's waited to reverse the form with Madara. You can't ignore Muscada, £8 higher, I suppose. She won well last year. Her and Dino Blue came, well away from the rest of the field, really. So, this is not a good renewal. So, she's actually quite a big price, I would say. Sufferer is, an unexposed, 3 times over fences, Gordon Elliott type horse. He's won with that type before. You can't ignore that. Path de Rue strikes me as being well handicapped on a couple of nice form lines, actually. So you've got all of those that I think are probably in the mix, and they're going to be the popular horses. But I like a couple of bigger prices. One seems to have been found over the last few days, so not the price it was when I backed in. First was Ferro Bamboo. I think Ferro Bamboo will get in. I've been working my way through what I think is going to run. I think it will get in. It's 133. It was third to Global Citizen 2 years ago of 145. It's £12 better off. It's been running over 2.5 miles at Cheltenham in those big 2.5 mile handicaps this season. Getting to the last, coming to the hill and not getting home. 2 miles is its trip, but it does travel around Cheltenham really, really well. The drop back to 2 miles in soft ground, actually, I think it's going to suit it. I think it's perfect. I think it goes there with the right shout. It was 25s a week ago. I think it's probably half that now, is it? I don't know, but I think it's been found now. The other one I like is Strawfan Jack. That was 4th in last year's Arkle, off a similar mark, around the 133, I think. Again, I think it's just going to get in at the bottom of the handicap. I was just talking about Global Citizen when Ferrero Bamboo was 3rd to Global Citizen a couple of years ago. It just looks like Global Citizen, really. Nice profile, running in graded races, been running over further this season, similar to Ferrero Bamboo, got the handicap mark down, bosh, go and win the Grand Annual. I like those two. I'd probably recommend ditching them on the day.
Nice. Jamie, I think someone in the comments has mentioned your good thing that you mentioned on Sunday. Do you want to let us know your thoughts on the Grand Annual?
Yeah, I like you, Dave. My record here is seconds, a lot of seconds in this, but I backed Ferrero Bamboo that day. It was 3rd to Global Citizen, and Darryl texted me afterwards and said, "Thank you, Jamie, for putting me off Global Citizen," because I said he's a flat track horse. But anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, I'm with Paul in a way that I think there's a big handicap in this for Ardarm if it got in. I really will say that. There's definitely a handicap in this horse. I will say that. No, that's if he gets. The other horse, obviously, that Paul mentioned, that you'd have to bring in. It all depends how quick Cilios runs in the Arkle and the way they've campaigned Saffron. Like, obviously, it won a race where Hunter's Yarn fed it to second last or the last at Ferry House. It was given a nice softish ride. I thought it naced behind Quick Cilios. So marking 145 is not beyond him. And last year we favoured for a Coral Cup, so you have to take that into consideration. The one I like is Enniskerry. Yeah, I think it's been campaigned for this race. Look, the mark, as I said on Sunday, Dave, is a little tad high in my opinion of 148. But look, he won a grade 3 last summer around Roscommon. And I said to you, like, it says good ground in the description. It's never good ground at Roscommon. I don't care what it says. There's always cutting the ground there. Do you know what I mean? The go in description is totally wrong, always there. Then it ran then in the Galway plate. It just didn't stay. Won a flat main around Leopardstown before the Galway plate, but they thought it'd stay in the Galway plate. Look, it travelled to the dip well. And look, and it's been put away. Look, obviously it's probably hard to train because you barely see him, and he's very unexposed still. The only thing is, well, I said, but like they think he needs better ground. Like he was second in a bumper in a soft, heavy ground behind Let's Be Clear About, and Let's Be Clear About is a bog warrior at the best of times. So look, I wouldn't put you off at the ground, and I like him. I backed him at 20-1 each way, and but I'm not really, really confident. But look, I like him, and I think he's unexposed in this field because I don't think it's a great race.
Yeah. Is that? I mean, yeah. We've done that justice. I'll shut up, Lou. Let's move on to the next part of it. Champion bumper. I feel like this probably could be a quick one. Again, if anyone does have the bullishiness of opinion, especially in this race, then obviously feel the need to pad out your story if you want. But the guys in the chat know we know our stuff. So if you've got a strong enough opinion, say it. The reason I'm saying all of that is that Brecon Castle each way, and I don't want to justify why. So yeah, Brecon Castle. I mentioned him at the beginning of the season. I still like this horse. I definitely think he's not shown what he's fully capable of, and I still think that Ascot bumper run is pretty decent, given the amount of weight away he had to give to the mare that day. And I think it was notable because Harry Skelton, when they interviewed him after the race, one of the first things he said was, they said about what a great performance was from the mare, and he was like, yeah, but it's a hell of a performance from that one in second to give me all that weight. So he was obviously slightly impressed with the horse, and he was a little bit roguey at Cheltenham, a little bit roguey in his point as well. So I think he's one of those that would battle hard in a bumper. But yeah, it doesn't look a vintage bumper, but in history, right, there might have been some real good ones that look in there. You don't really know till they go against each other. We might not have some of the best ones here. But Paul, did you land on anything for the bumper to recommend or to get stuck into?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't put anybody off Brecon Castle each way. I think that's a big price for a horse that was touched off by a horse that I know Dan and Harry love in Let It Rain, and she's one to watch out for the Mares Novice Hurdle next season. So that form line is really strong. It's probably the strongest form line over here that you can take into the bumper. People will point at Tishan and say, Paul, you're talking rubbish, but, I'm not, am I? Tishan can improve massively from what it did, but, I'd be a bit concerned about him running in a heavy ground bumper at Exeter 3 weeks before the champion bumper, if I'm really honest. That doesn't feel like ideal preparation for a 5-year-old bumper horse. But, I think everybody's got in their minds, that point-to-point video. Everybody's seen it, where it just won by half the track. So it's clearly a talented horse. So, the two English ones I'd have in mind would be Tishan and Brecon Castle. That William Money race 4 weeks ago, whenever it was now, I think and everybody's going to look at the Dublin Racing Festival and say that's the best piece of form because it traditionally is. But I actually think the William Money bit of form is the strongest bit of form in Ireland right now. And actually, Sata Chance was only beaten half a length behind William Money. And it's going a little bit under the radar, I think, because everybody's focused on the DRF. Jeroboam Machin was a really good winner of that. And, I think all three of us would be saying that's the horse that wins this race if it was there. But so we're kind of trying to scratch around behind that and looking at You Ought to Know and the Yellow Clay and saying, well, they must be the winner then. No, I'm not entirely convinced that's true. It is a strong form line, but I'm not sure there's any value in those two horses at all. So I think of the Irish, I'd take a view that Sata Chance is probably the best value. Of the English, I think Brecon Castle is outstanding value. Tishan can probably improve.
Yep, happy days. Jamie, bumper?
Yeah, look, Dave, there's a lot in here. There is a lot here. Like, Jasmine Defoe is the favourite, recorded an RPR 128. Will improve. You ought to know I'd be worried about the ground for it. Look, it went through the ground pretty well, like in the Dublin Festival, I thought, and put up an RPR 132. It's probably the best form of the race, still the Dublin Racing Festival race with Jeroboam Machin. I think Jeroboam Machin ran, it probably would win now. But there's a lot in here. I said to comment on Sunday that I think the best two horses going forward the way that is Tishan and Romeo Coolio. But will they be better? Will they win this race? I don't know. I really like both horses for the future. Look, the Yellow Clay. Look, I know people are saying, look, it's obvious to put him up. But, I thought Barry O'Neill just went the wrong way about it. Look, he didn't track Derek O'Connor and Jeroboam. He went in for a gap that wasn't there. Do you know anything about the Yellow Clay? Did he have the speed to go into the gap? And that's what's put me off him slightly. Do you know what I mean? But if you look back, he's totally stopped. And he would have been a decent second to Jeroboam Machin. So then he should be favourite, in my opinion. But look, the strongest form line, and I agree with Paul, and I actually watched him when I came home yesterday evening, and why are they on about this Sata Chance? Yeah, is that William Money was seriously impressive last week at Naas, and he beat him up the straight in Navan. That's a big hill in Navan. They went at it a long way from home, and I just couldn't people off him now, to be honest with you. But it's wide open. You could run this race, Dave, 20 times, you'll have 20 different winners, and that's just, look, you pick the one you like. And the one I've liked since Dublin Racing Festival is the Yellow Clay. And from what the lads are saying, look, with the William Money form, and William Money is not coming here, Sata Chance each way maybe after that, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Darryl was real keen on Sata Chance as well. So I will just touch on the fact we've mentioned a number of horses in it. The bookies are mugs at the moment, right? It's 3 places, a fifth of the odds, and you know that this will be a pretty much full field bumper. So there will be at least 5 places up for grabs on the day. If the bookmakers don't do that, then go and see Paul Beck bet, because he will be offering 5 places each way on the day. But there will be. So as much as you can look at a lot of them now, just definitely wait for the day type race. So that's the end of day 2. We'll get naps, etc. I'll touch on this the last time I'm going to say it, right? Because on the stairs race, I'm going to put it out. £30 free bet going out. You got a comment, Tiapu. I'll pick one of the comments. Make sure you've liked the video. That was donated to us kindly at the Toaster Preview. Just at this point, we did have an awesome time there on Sunday. It's very well put together. Haven't said it yet, but I want to just say a massive thank you to Kevin Boothby for allowing us to do it there, hosting us at the venue. You couldn't meet a nicer person, and he's proper went out of his way to help us out there. So big thanks to you, Kevin, for doing that. We've got to pick our naps for day 2, though, gents. It's going to be quite easy, I'd imagine, for all of us because we can all just nap Delta Work in the cross country because Delta Work's one of the better bets of the week. I think I know he's an old boy. I know it's a little bit risky, but I like the cross country chase because I do think that there's only a couple of horses that could possibly ever win it, and the only horse that can win it this year is Delta Work. He's the only one. So Delta Work's my best bet for Wednesday. Paul, your best bet for day 2?
Yeah, we'll top that up and do him in a double with Factor File, shall we? That's a nice little double. As an each way double, though, I like Built by Ballymore and Ferrero Bombay. I think that's a nice each way double.
Nice, good way to do it. All the tips coming out. Jamie, best bet?
If Mystical Power runs, then the Ballymore will win, yeah.
Okay, we'll happily stick with that. Right, we're moving on to Thursday, day 3, if my year 1 arithmetic serves me correctly. It's a day where I think it's full of more bullish opinions than some of the first couple of days. I feel like usually it gets easier as the week. I mean, it gets harder as the week goes on. You find better bets at the beginning of the week, but this year, I don't know. It seems like it's changed a little bit. The markets are fairly windy in some of the earlier ones. Speaking of a windy market, the Turners has looked a little bit strange for a while, right? Again, we've got the whole. We don't really definitely know who's going to come here, and I know we've had this in the past. Black Hercules was going to go for the National Hunt Chase, weren't he? And then came and won this race. It's a madness. It's not like untypical of like previous years. We just maybe haven't had it so much recently. Iroko, like the Undertaker from WWE when he comes out of the chest, is back from dead, supposedly going really well and is going to come here as the last I heard. Don't know if anyone's heard any different to that, but it's a race that's fiddling, right, with lots of them towards the front, and I feel like I could just pick holes in lots of them. I know that seems to be a thing that I like to do. I won't talk too much about this race, but you can... Oh, the blue's coming in for him, boys. It's happening. What Paul touched on it earlier, that Zanna here could go champion hurdle, right? Given the fact the Constitution Hill's out there. He's been 3rd twice in the champion hurdle. And to quote Paul Beck, he didn't say this, but he wouldn't be out of place in the champion hurdle, is what I heard Paul Beck say. But he's twice third in a champion hurdle. We already all know that. He would have beaten Epperton over 2 mile 4 when he fell at Aintree, so that was a reasonable run. And when he was behind Constitution Hill is a horse that people were arguing is a Gold Cup horse, and it's a travesty they've not sent him chasing. And Danaher got that close to him over 2.5. Like, this could be his trip. Yes, he's not the best horse over fences from what we've seen in terms of improvement, like upgrading his hurdle form. But we know, apart from the year that he got done by Quixos in the Triumph, where I think a lot of people felt a little bit hard done by the ride, his best form does come this time of year. The first of those champion hurdles, he was disqualified for a banned substance. I'm not saying there was anything untoward there, but I do think they're clearly trying with him at this time of year. I know this is not even any way, shape or form a good line into it, but if you really want to get cryptic with it, Gordon Elliott's supplementing American Mike out of the race because he already knows that Zanna here is going to win it. And that's obviously not a true thing, but in hindsight, it could be one of those that comes out to the clappers, right? 25 to 1 Coral's the top price out there. It'll be the same with Labyrinth if you can get with any of them. 20s generally. I don't know how many runners will get in this field, and I don't know if people will offer the extended places. My recommendation is to bet Zanna here each way in this because I think he can run a big race. I put, was it Bron up last year for, was that in the Brown advisory? There's just always a few, right, that are big prices, and understandably because there's some fancy ones in there. There's just a lot of fancy ones towards the front of this market, and I just feel like Zanna here's the one that's got a short and got to run well. So Zanna here, we've been waiting to play for the Turners, and I quite like him. Quite like him as an each way bet. Stick him in an each way double with Matata and Bally Adam. Oh, see him in the treble. That'll pay quite nicely. Paul Turner's very different race from what it could have been even a month ago. A little bit of a different race to, well, just what it could have been. Gaelic Warrior's been odds on at one point. Fatafal's been odds on for it for a while. And we don't definitely know that either of those two are going to run. Sunday, your thoughts were, I feel, fairly straightforward on this race. Who do you think wins the Turners?
Yeah, look, I think Grey Dawning wins this. I think he's the best horse in the race. We look at the form line with Ginny's Destiny. Those form lines go across the handicaps everywhere as well. And everybody's tipping up the horses that sit along those form lines. Grey Destiny would have won that race comfortably if he hadn't tried to take the last fence with him. And still managed to recover and was only beaten a couple of lengths. So, I think he's clear best on all of that form line. I think the softer ground will probably help him. I think he would be second in the Brown Advisory. I think he wins this. I think the decision that Dan, Harry, and the team there have to make is whether they believe the Factor File form is as strong as I believe it is. I'm absolutely 100% confident it is. But Grey Dawn is a lovely horse. I've had the privilege of obviously seeing him school and working and everything else, and he is just a lovely, lovely horse. But because he's a UK horse, I think he probably doesn't quite get the credit he deserves, actually. That form line at Cheltenham and the way he was going to win that race and the way he's improved run on run. He was carefully campaigned through his novice hurdle season. Dan does that particularly well. I think he doesn't overface his best future chasers in their novice hurdle seasons, whereas you'll see a lot of other trainers, you're expecting them to be grade 1 horses in the novice hurdle season. So Dan is, far more circumspect in terms of the way he campaigns them. He's thinking about them for the future. So all of those things sort of make people think about other horses first, generally. But I really like him. I think he's a really, really smart horse. Ryko, actually, I think he is too. But he goes there after one run, albeit I thought he jumped impressively on his debut over fences. But, it's got to be a concern that he's had that interrupted prep. But, he has won, a Martin Pipe over hurdles on the same course. So we know he acts around there. If he is 100%, I think he's the one that gives Grey Dawn most to do. I'm not really interested in anything else at all, to be honest.
Jamie, I mean, I do know what you said on Sunday, but I'll just tee it up for the viewers anyway. Poor Gaelic Warrior. Gaelic Warrior was the second coming, was going to be winning this race at a shortish old price. I know you like him if he goes to an Arkle. He did jump relatively straight at Leopardstown. So let us know your thoughts on the race, but I also want you to say something kind about Gaelic Warrior. Poor Gaelic Warrior.
Poor Gaelic Warrior is right, Dev. Yeah. Look, to me, it's either or, it's vice versa. It doesn't matter. If Gaelic Warrior comes here or Facile Vega comes here, either of them will win. They're just the better horses in the race. Look, wouldn't put anyone off Grey Dawning. I'm not cribbing Grey Dawning at all. It's just me. It's just the way he jumps to from home. I don't know what it is. It's just, look, he should have won that race against Ginny's Destiny. And look, it's exactly what Paul says. The fences must be soft if he nearly got back up to beat Ginny's Destiny. Do you know what I mean? Look, technically, if here I have a long outstanding bet on Roko for this, and I don't know what price I back to that. But look, the worry is going in without the prep, really, Dave, really, isn't it? If he had another run, I'd be all over him. Do you know what I mean? That's just something in the back of my head, like he doesn't have enough experience. But for me, it's vice versa. Look, I said fast side for the Arkle. I'm going to say Gaelic Warrior here. I've been most of my decent anti-post bets on Gaelic Warrior have been in the Turners. And I can't come off now because I think if you get him back to his best, he'll destroy all these, really, if he's back to his best. Even going left-handed, I will say that. I think he's just better. But yeah.
He's a mad one, isn't he? And I mean, we've obviously got a few people that are watching this. I think it's going to affect my... I'll be doing a bit of trading on the week. But I was looking at this race not so long ago thinking, I'm going to have to put a few in running lays on Gaelic Warrior when he goes real short in running. So I was thinking I can put a few in, it'll probably be 4s on after they've done the first circuit. You can bet in pre-race now the price is like, I think he's one of those that I'm going to be tying up a good sized bet on the exchanges with a view that he's I would say he's definitely going to trade shorter in running. Whether he gets fucked by the end of the race is a different story. But I just wanted to put that out there so that you guys will all be able to probably laugh when Gaelic Warrior tips up at the first, and I've clearly not been able to get out my bet. But I do think it depends what he's going to be priced on the day. But I do think it's still a little bit mad that he's a bit of a price. I don't believe he's probably going to win the race, but I do think he's a trading opportunity. But that's not what the show's for, is it? No one cares, Dave. Move on to the Potemps. I will just reiterate, though, that none of us have said anything about Ginny's Destiny. We haven't said anything negative, but we most certainly haven't said anything positive. Let's move on to the Potemps. Lots of horses in here that I can't really pronounce, so I'll just stick with the boy that I mentioned a long time ago. Way, way, way too short a price to even be thinking about betting now is Chantry House. But I'm invested in him. I'm looking at this race through massively rose tinted glasses. I don't like the like big layoffs for horses like Iker Allen. I don't really think the mare was as plotty as everyone else thinks. Like when horses seem to travel well in some races, I just think that they were maybe able to run their race that day if they were asked. I know they did try a bit, but I don't know. I don't think it's as plotty as it used to be. You get the first one that got to qualify. We'll have to find out. But I can't get away from looking at Chantry House, so I'll stick with that. I am saying him as like what would be a selection, but I do think you'd be a bit mad to bet him at the price. I don't think he's out the frame, but it's probably not worth the risk, is it, to get a little bit of each way money back when he's that sort of price. So, Jamie, Potemps final, got any more bullish opinions than me?
Yeah, I've backed two in here, Dave. I've backed Lamilas at 50 to 1. Since he ran there, he qualified a Mark Raisin there at the start of the season. Came back then and ran at Ascot behind a horseshoe back there that bad. Didn't try a yard. They put Charlie Todd on it. They knew they weren't trying. And I think Dan Skelton wants to go here instead of taking up engagements in handicap chases. Like he won a Hennessy off 146. He's a hurdles mark now is back down to 142. I think this horse has been plotted all year for this race. Paul hopefully will back me up on this with the line of Skelton. But look, I really like him. I've liked him all year. I spotted him ages ago. And yeah, I really like him for this. And the other horse, obviously, is Iker Allen. Been campaigned, like hasn't run since the entry qualifier, and just watched the race back and way John Joe ran through the race. Like John Joe Neal Jr. like didn't try a yard up the straight with him. This horse was fourth at Galway Hurdle during the summer behind Sarek the Brave, Jesse Evans, and my mate Mozzie. I think it's just crying out for the step up and trip. You could see that at entry there when he ran. So look, it's not huge. Look, go away and back him. There are certainties when a pair times because you just don't know who's very well handicapped in because of all the qualifying races there is. But look, I'm on Lamilas each way, and I like Iker Allen as well each way.
Nice. Paul, good thoughts in the Potemps. You've normally got good insight for these handicaps. Oh, firstly, Lamilos, like Jamie said there, he's giving him a mention. I didn't know what your running order was going to be. I had a few messages from people asking where they think he's going to go because the same people all think that he's got a proper chance in the Ultima. He's not going to the Ultima, is he, Paul?
No, look, I think he's highly likely to come to this race. Look, when I go at these handicaps, I broadly put horses in buckets. So I start off before the weights come out. I drop horses into buckets. Try and make some assumption around what the handicap's going to do with the Irish horses. You're not going to be too far out unless your name's Percival Le Galois. Or Melantino, you're going to be within a pound or two generally of what the handicapper does. So you can start work on this stuff early. And even earlier on races like the Potemps, because you know which horses are qualified. So, I've had horses in sort of buckets for this for a while. And in broad terms, one bucket is I'm discarding them. And actually, there's fewer horses you can discard for this race than usual, if I'm really honest. Then I have horses that, I put horses in the bucket that have course and distance form. I put horses in the bucket that I believe are unexposed. And then, you've got those, and this is the same in the other handicaps as well, those that appear to be well in on their chase rating. There's only one horse that crosses two of those categories, actually, and that's Chantry House. He's well in on his chase rating. And you can't argue with his course form for obvious reasons. But he's not the only horse in those buckets. And I'm not convinced that he is the furthest ahead in terms of his mark either. You've got other horses in there like Gabby's Cross and Foxy Jacks, the Milos we've just talked about. Those horses have similar chances. In the unexposed category, I had... at the top of that category, I won't go through it completely, but top of that category, Iker Allen and I can't pronounce it, Jamie. Just tell me the name again. How do you pronounce it?
Gway Quill.
Okay, Gway Quill. Yeah,
that's it. You got it right there, Paul. That was fantastic pronunciation there. Gway Quill.
Gway Quill. And then those at the top end of the sort of course and distance form that I had outside of Chantry House of Springwell Bay, Gull Road, Nana Bonina. And for these kind of races, I will probably end up having three bets in this race, and the one that I like best out of each of those pots. The two that I like the most are Icaro and Lamilos. So, without me answering the question directly that you asked me, because I'm not going to, I have backed Lamilos. That probably just is enough that I need to say. And so I've got both of those two backed. I will back one of the other three, which in that other bucket, which is Springwell Bay, Coral Road, and Anna Bonina. So I will back one of those as my third horse in the race, but I haven't actually done so as we speak. So that's my view of the race.
Nice. Well, Thursday is the King of the Handicaps day. We've got 3 of them to get stuck into. Let's move on, though. We've got to move on to Ryanair Chase. I'm still sad that Allaho won't be here. Makes me sad when I go through this race, because whenever I start to whittle them down, I just start looking at them and think, Allaho would have beaten that. Allaho would have beaten that. But that's more than enough talk about him in here. El Fabiano's not going to come here, so thank you, Odds Check. You might as well just remove him. It's a pointless exercise. I'm not 100% sold if Banbridge will definitely come in now. I know we've talked about soft ground and some of those bits and pieces in there, but they've got previous with taking him out, haven't they? Like he is a bit more ground dependent than other horses, and I don't know. I just worry that not enough to be his favourite he's going to run. So like, it's not enough for me to say that I don't think he can win the race. But if they don't run him, then obviously he can't. If they do run him, you'd have to think that he could. So there'd only be any value in waiting for him. But he's short enough for a horse that is ground dependent in my eyes.
What price is he now,
Envoy obviously is. He's 3-1 top price with Coral Ladbroke.
See, I wouldn't put anybody off that now on no bet, because Joseph O'Brien's only sent that horse to the ground suitable, and he's the best horse in the race if it is. So I wouldn't 3-1. I wouldn't put anybody off that.
Yeah, just to tie it up with the safety that the trainer will try if he's trying, right?
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with Paul. Like, if there's any bit goodish in the ground, like Dave as well, like if people go back, like it was soft enough, like not soft enough, but it was good to soft in place. And we own a Martin Pike. So is he totally ground dependent? Maybe he is more as a chaser, but like I think they're really shooting themselves in the foot if they put him on the day like they did in the Turners last year, because the ground wasn't that bad. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, true.
No, he's not for me. Look, he's just not for me. No, he's just not. But I'm just like making the point to
and I talk about this a lot about tying up money and horses. Like it is potentially worth doing it. But yeah, I've always been a little bit lukewarm on Banbridge, and his last run was decent, but that's the first time he's posted that sort of a number. There's a few like little trendy bits in here that tend to help, like an age perspective, puts a few of these out of here. For all that Envoy's a like worthy horse. Again, I think he's a little bit too short. We were all, I think, in the notes pretty unanimous on this one that Jamie's talked about this horse since the summer being for this particular race. We do, well, I say we, I'll just say it as me. You guys can match it up if you want after. Protectorat looks still the knocking bet. He's 14-1 each way. I know it's going to be a potentially deep looking race, but I think he is the one that wins this. The year that Frodon won it when Footpad was going off short, like that looks on paper like a deep enough race, but Protectorat has got the figures in the book to prove that he can do it. That race behind La Hompresse, he was given £4 for that horse. Lompress didn't pull away from him like the stamina-laden horse that he is. And when he ran at Newbury, did all the donkey work for Shishkin. And I think it's sometimes forgotten how much doing the donkey work for horses can really take out of another horse. Like when Manila Indo and Allaho ran against each other in Clonmel, Manila Indo did all the donkey work there. That's why he was able to reverse the form when they come to Cheltenham. So Protector at 14-1 is just for me an absolute no-brainer each way bet. I wouldn't want to put people off for the ones towards the head of the market. Like I can see the case for Envoy and Banbridge, but I'm not interested in playing that. Protector at each way I feel like is a reasonable bet. And I'd also be semi-tempted with him when I talk about trades on the day. Like he won't be this price, but if he's a double figure price on the day, I'll have a good bet on him before he runs, and then I'll get out of it in the middle of it to try and get a little bit more on there. So definitely overpriced, but not only is he overpriced, I think he's actually got a proper chance in here. Jamie, I'll feed it back to you because you did talk about Protectorat before. I think probably even before the horse was born, you said this horse should go running a Ryanair. But you must be happy with the way that it's panned out, because obviously the Skeltons did change things up that might not have happened if they'd have tried other things to get him here. Protectorat, do you need to say too much on the fact that you think he wins?
No, you basically what I was going to say, Dave. You've just hit the nail on the head. Yeah, whatever races he's ran in this year. The only other horse, I said it on Sunday, the only other horse I like is Completed, and the way he fell at the second last chasing Allaho, like, and the way he ran against like Galopan and Fast or Slow here, he still technically has the best form of the race. if you're judging on 2 Gold Cup horses, you know what I mean? And he's massive back class. But has he been to the well too much? You know what I mean? That's the only thing I will put you off about him. But I wouldn't put you off him in a way like if you think that he still is a classy horse in the race, he's still a decent price at 8-1. But I all over Protectorate here. Yeah, I just really like him, and I think if he gets to the front, I don't think there'll be many horses that'll catch him. He's got him and Stage Star are going to put whatever about Stage Star. I don't fancy Stage Star anyway, but they're going to put a lot of horses under pressure. And on the other side of it, are they going to cut each other's throats? That's the slight worry I have. But look, I think he's a classy horse. He's been third in the Gold Cup. He's been crying out for this trip for ages, and he's won over this new course before at Cheltenham. I'm happy with my 33-1. I backed him last October, I think, at that price, and I was praying for Skelton to put him in this race, and I've got my wish, and I hope he wins.
Yeah, happy days. And then we would allude to, obviously, I keep saying about how much you love Protectorate, but like you touched on there when Paul was bringing about the price, like you can see why Banbridge is where he is, I guess, as well. Like you're not saying it's a foregone conclusion to win, but still big enough price, isn't he? Paul, what would you like to add to the Ryanair for us?
Yeah. Just before I come back to what James is saying there, because I completely agree with that. I'm sat on 100-1 slip for Conflated, so which gives me a bit of a conflict because Kev from Fat Jockey, who runs Fat Jockey, who's on there this evening, won with 100-1 shot last season, and I can't remember what horse it was. Kev, just type it out, whatever the name of the horse was, would you? Dave will read it out when you do it.
Sided Burley.
So say again.
Was it Sided Burley like Daryl, 100-1?
Oh, it could have been. It could have been actually. Just think it up, Kev, would you? So I've been suffering from envy for 12 months. So I've got 100-1 slip for Conflated. So as much as I'd like that to come in, I don't think it will. I think he'll probably just fall short. But I also love Protectorate for this race. I think he's possibly the best value bet out there across all the markets at the moment at that price at 14-1. You know, this is a horse that was classy enough to go close in Gold Cups that didn't quite stay the trip. You know, people used to bag Florida Pearl for that, didn't they? You know, and you know the way he's running those Gold Cups, he's just looked like Florida Pearl.
Florida Pearl would have won 2 or 3 Ryanair's, yeah.
Exactly that. Florida Pearl would have probably won 3 Ryanair's. So we're talking about, you know, a proven classic Grade 1 horse that runs the right kind of race, because Ryanair's, you've got to be up there. You know, let's make no bones about it. You can't get left behind in Ryanair's. What is it? Which one was it, Kev?
He said, 66 has got a love a value loser. That's St. Calvados, but I don't know which. I don't think they said whether it was Sided Burley.
You must have been lying to me, Kevin.
St. Calvados was second to Min, wasn't it?
That was second to
Min, yeah, Min.
Yeah, it was, yes, yeah. So, look, going back to Protectorate, you know, that form it takes, you know, the kind of class into this race that nobody else has got. You know, Stage Star has to have an uncontested lead. Stage Star is not going to get an uncontested lead with Protectorate in there. And Stage Star will shit it if that's the case. You know, as much as he's a nice horse, and I do rate Stage Star, and you can write off that last race, you know. Paul Nicholls himself admitted he made a mistake running Stage Star in the race, and he pulled muscles in the race. So, you know, if you actually want to consider that as form, then, you know, definitely doing the wrong thing. You've got to look at everything before that. But I just think Protectorate is just an infinitely better horse. At 14-1, I think he's a stonking good bet. I really, really do. And anybody that's not on him just needs to go and press the button now.
Agreed. I think he goes off a lot shorter than him. We talk about all those numbers. Stage Star's achieved his figures in handicaps. Obviously, has got that big pulled up to take out of it. Yet he's 4-1 versus 14. And Banbridge only just achieved his rating in the 160s that last run, which for all it looked quite good. Hasn't really been backed up.
Don't forget, Protectorate has actually has produced form and a handicap as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, he's done it off.
Great run that was.
That's the thing
weapon, isn't he? Well, we all know he's a good thing. It's a good price as well. That's what's quite nice about it, because it's not. I mean, we probably would be looking at it slightly differently if he was like a 6-4 favourite. He doesn't warrant to be that sort of price, but like he's
get the beacon there for Dave. Get the beacon quick. Get the beacon.
Oh God, we need the beacon for Dave.
Get the beacon for Dave.
We need the beacon.
There we go.
There we go, mate.
Thank you very much. Right, this is the reason you tuned in. I'm going to win I'm going to announce. I'll announce the winner of the £30 free bet. If anybody in the comments can guess who wins the stairs hurdle, we may or may not have given you a clue a little bit earlier on. Boys, it's changed a bit. It's changed. It's changed a bit, a little bit, right, since we talked Sunday, because Irish Point was speculatively going to a champion hurdle, but almost definitely now. Obviously, the ultimate oxymoron, almost definitely. We talked about him on Sunday, and he was still 3-1, right? 9-4 top price now. I mean, I don't like. There's some horses you just bet because they're going to win. Tiapu definitely does win, right? And I know everyone will slate last year, the fact that he should have got it done last year and he didn't. But there are valid excuses for why he didn't get it done last year. We talked only slightly on Davy Russell. We got a bit more of a slate on Sunday, to be fair to him. We talked about some of the rides that, like, we don't think he covered himself in glory, essentially. And I do believe if Jack Kennedy had been on him last year, he probably would have won the race. And if he'd have won the race, people wouldn't be able to sit back and say he didn't win last year. And he wasn't beaten that far out of sight. They have changed things with him as well this season. The fact that they've given him the break, we know that he's better fresh. And the way that Gordon Elliott's talked about brighter days ahead and smashed her into the head of the market, everybody out there that can see that Irish Point's clearly a very good horse. Someone tweeted the other day, boys, saying that Henrietta Knight knows that Irish Point would win the stairs hurdle. So why is Gordon Elliott running it in the champion hurdle? Like Gordon Elliott doesn't know what he's got at home. We're not talking about two Irish horses that they might know about each other. They know which one's better out of Tiapu and Irish Point at this trip, or in the conditions. Everything's all trained for it. It's one of these, right? Any other horse, I don't know why everyone's got it against Tiapu. Any other horse, people would be saying it's a tip in itself that he's choosing to drop a horse from 3 miles down to 2. They're not saying we'll save him for Aintree and run him over 2 mile 4. They're running him back a whole mile shorter because they just want to give it to Tiapu. I think he was a knocking bet anyway beforehand. I know he gets cribbed. I still think that run at the beginning of the season would beat Impere Pass. I talked to a few people, sent a message out to a few lads about why I thought he was a bet that day. And this obviously does sound like after time, but that's not the purpose of bringing it up, right? It was real slow ground that day. There was Willie Mullins' horses were needing the run, and I did think that Tiapu would get the better of Impere Pass, but probably 60% of the population didn't, with the way that Impere Pass was still fairly solid in the market. And Jack Kennedy outrode Paul Townend in that. Patrick Mullins came out after still saying that they thought Impere Pass could have beaten him with a better ride. But he's gone and smashed up a decent horse at the decent trip. We know that Gaelic Warrior is quite good. He battered him in a Ballymore last year, didn't he, in Impere Pass? They talked about this horse like he was the second coming as well. He's not all of a sudden just become a bad horse. The Irish Champion hurdle run, they changed tactics. It didn't work. His first run behind State Man for a few strides looked like he was going to get near him. And State Man is a 2's on pipe for a champion hurdle. He was the only thing that could ever get within an arse's lick of Constitution's Hill. And Impere Pass was on the premise of being able to beat a horse like that. And 2 miles is not Impere Pass's optimum trip. And Tiapu, at his optimum trip, was able to go and get the better of him. He definitely does stay. I think Davy Russell just was too scared to send any horse too soon after what he did on the Goffer. I would imagine that Gordon Elliott gave him an absolute pelting for saying you went for home too soon. And I think he tried to get smart on Tiapu. So I think they've changed enough about him to suggest that you can excuse last year. I don't think this is a better race than last year. I don't think that Crambo's any good, and I can't believe that we've got a Grand National winner, Noble Yates, as potentially third favourite for this race. It's madness. So just get stuck into Tiapu. Tiapu wins the stairs hurdle. There genuinely isn't anything else. I'm going to end the stream now. No, I'm joking. Tiapu wins the stairs hurdle. I have no doubt in my mind that he wins. And obviously, saying that, 9-4 is still not a bad price. 3-1 Sunday was a little bit better, but shit zone. Jamie, stairs hurdle. Have I convinced you yet?
Look, I hope he wins, Dave. I've said to you all year, I'm pocket talking here. I backed him last year on the stairs hurdle, and I couldn't believe he didn't win. Look, I think you, as I said to you there, and I said it on Sunday, English soft to heavy ground is not like Irish soft to heavy ground, to be honest with you. It's nowhere near it. Look, you might get your 2.9 on the cross country course, hopefully. If it's 2.9 the cross country course that comes to the main track, he'll win by easy, do you know what I mean? I will say that, and I hope he wins for you. It's that nagging doubt, Dave. I thought that he was beaten last year by Dashel Drasher and Sir de Burley, and he couldn't go through that gap. But look, like you're saying, Davy Russell didn't ride him with ultimate confidence, I thought, last year, that he was going to really win the race. And hopefully, look, you have a better jockey on board than Jack Kennedy. this time, and I hope he wins. But look, for process of elimination, look, a lot of people crib me here, and I think he's a handicapper. But I really like Crambo. Like, I think it's just like he just has that, maybe has that little bit of extra gear at the end. Now, the ground, he probably can go on anything, and you just don't know what's going to turn about by the Thursday. I think there's a lot of deadwood in here, really, Dave, really, isn't there? Like, Sir Gerhard doesn't stay. Noble Yates would probably need the softer ground as well, won't he? Really soft. Flooring. Porter's is going to go up like the Clappers again. Yeah, I think it's just the process elimination. I'll go with I know he's coming from a handicap, but like a Paisley Park came from handicaps and won stairs hurdles. I wouldn't put you off, and I think he's just an improving horse this year, Crambo. So look, he's bought still 11-2 top price each way. If you were going down there, I can't see him out of the 3, Dave. So it's Crambo for me. I'm on at 25s. I'm happy with my position, and look, I hope Tipu wins for you, but I've always liked Crambo for this.
Right, so you want Tiapu to win for me, but you want Crambo to win for you. I do get that. The key thing as well with Tiapu, just chuck this in again, Paul. He's only a baby, isn't he, Tiapu? And that first run at Cheltenham in the stairs hurdle was pretty much his first run over 3 miles.
Oh,
By the time
Kev, tell your friend Kev there. Kev, I'm going to make one comment. Tell Kev, National Thrasher.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe the 100 to 1 that he's trying to. Yeah. Anyway, Paul. Stayers hurdle, Tiapu. I know I obviously sound like a weird little fanboy with it, but and I always sound like overly obsessed with it. But everyone can forgive, like you say, we forgive a horse a bad day, right? We can forgive everyone a mistake. I know we didn't seem very forgiving of David Russell on Sunday, but I'll forgive Tiapu for the fact that he didn't get the gap, didn't get the best ride, and didn't win the race last year, but could have done. I think that's the difference. A lot of people still don't believe if that race was run again, he ever would have won a stairs hurdle. Tiapu, do you give him any sort of chance? I mean, is he just too short to bet? Is it a price thing? You just don't like him? Have I annoyed you so much? There's a small part of you that hopes he gets beat.
No, look, I'm not sure I'd necessarily be backing him now at the price. He was obviously available at much bigger prices earlier on, and I suspect all 3 of us are on at the bigger prices, but that doesn't help anybody that's listening in now. Look, stairs hurdles, the result of stairs hurdles very much depends on how the race is run. Last year, it was a fierce gallop. It was a fierce gallop. And what happened was there was just a complete breakdown of pace, and Sire de Burlay benefited from it. And actually, often when you get those kind of things, it'll be the Sire de Burlays, it'll be the Dashel Drashers, it'll be the Paisley Park. They've got so many miles in their legs, they've done it so many times, they'll come to the fore in those kind of races. They probably would have benefited in a slightly different way sort of 3 years ago when they were younger horses, and they had sufficient stamina, and they'd go and grind out the last 3/4 of a mile, last mile, for example, off a slower pace. The stairs hurdles actually typically tend to be relatively moderately run for the first mile and a half, picking up the pace through between the first and second mile, and then a gallop to the line from the top of the hill. That's how they tend to be run. That's more often than not the race will be run that way. Now, I suspect if the race has been run that way last year, I suspect that Tiapu would have won whatever, with interference or not. I think that kind of race would have suited him better. But I thought it was of real merit that he went so close anyway. So he is clearly a classy horse. And he's probably the horse that you'd look at the race now and say, however it's run, he's the most versatile. You give him the best chance. If you're already on at a bigger price, I think you're happy. If you backed him each way, the 10s and 12s that are available, however long ago it was now. But I don't think you can back him each way. What is he now? 3-1, 5-2. What is he, Dave?
9-4 top price now, because obviously his Irish points been all but confirmed has gone to the champion. So he's getting short every day.
So today, he's hard to get on side of that kind of price. You might be there on the day having not had a bet and just going to have a lump on, that kind of thing if you're there with conviction. But, I've been running this race in my head and, actually thought about this some more since we did the preview night at Toaster. And I've actually come up with the same conclusion that I came up with at Toaster, which wasn't to Hooper, despite me having my best position on that horse. because I don't think they're going to go like they did last year. You know, Florian Porter is going to be allowed the lead that he's always had because he's been turned over now. You know, there's no need for anybody to go and take him on. He can go and do the work at the front. But Danny Mullins is not going to make the mistake that he did last time, is he? This time, he's going to give that horse a breather and stack him up again. He just has to, doesn't he? He just has to, because he just went for it last year and didn't give the horse the breather that he got the previous 2 years when the horse won. And this is not an old horse. You know, look at the ages that this race has been, the age of the horse that are winning this race. So I think he can go and run that race again, and he can go and run the race that he wants to go and run, and I think he can go and win it again. I genuinely do. You know, I don't think it's ideal that, you know, they've been experimenting with fences this year, but I think Gavin Cromwell's come out today and he said that he's going for the stayers. So that's been confirmed now. I think I said on Sunday he'd be absolutely mad not to. You know, I felt that way for some time. You know, for whatever reason, it's taken him a long time to get around to that way of thinking, but it's just so bloody obvious. You know, it's not a strong race. It hasn't been a strong race for some considerable time. You know, everybody's in a hurry to go chasing. You know, the best horses go chasing. So there is always that window, that gap of opportunity for the horse, for the trainer that gets the right horse, that is a genuine Grade 1 horse. And we've not had that horse for some time. I don't believe that horse is in the race this year either. So I think it is genuinely wide open. And I think there's an opportunity for him to go and win the race again the way he has done previously. And he'd have to go and do a Cato start to do it. It'd be the first horse to come back and go and do it, wouldn't he? After a gap, I think that'd be right. I think he'd be setting a new record doing it. But I think there's every chance he does it. Tahupu, I like him. You know, I can't argue with the case that's made for him. You know, I've made that case myself. I think he has a very good win chance, but I think Florian Porter offers a bit of value in the race, and I think he's been there and done that, and there's nothing that says to me that he's any worse horse.
Yeah, he was good at the start of the season. We touched on that Broadway boy form of him flying, and then the couple of times he's run after, there's excuses, isn't there? Going right-handed wasn't ideal, yeah. And then even when he ran left at Leopardstown at Christmas, massive oversight on my half, but obviously they always come to the stand side rail on the right-hand side, don't they? And there's a massive gap down the left-hand side, which is what could have made a bit of a difference to him as well. So yeah, he'll kill me if I don't have a couple of quid on him. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for putting any doubt in my mind. I still think TFP shits on those. Right, I'm going to announce the winner of the free bet. I'll do it now because I know most of you don't want to stay up too late. Plate's going to be nice and easy to go through, but I'm going to quickly scroll back. One of you two needs to just shout now, and then whoever it's over will get the TFP bet. So I'm scrolling
now.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, congratulations, Martin Lewis. I think he's the only person that put it in there once as well. True story. I'm hovering over him. 8:43. Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis, you have to drop an email into rantandracing@gmail.com with what you want the £30 bet to go on. I mean, you can say it in the comments now and I'll flag it up. But send the email so I can send you the slip that's been done. Feel like you should stick it on something juicy. Imagine he sticks it on Tiapu after that. What a boy. Right.
Protector at Martin.
Oh, yeah, we should make him do it. Anyway, yeah, you let us know what you fancy, mate. And then, like I say, drop an email into rantandracing1@gmail.com. We'll get it sorted. Right. Krabilly in the play. Do we move on to the next race? I mean, I've missed him at any sort of price, but I do feel like as much as he's 4-1 now, I don't mind him being a 4-1 poke for this. We know the form sort of stacks up through the season, doesn't it? And I know there's a few bits in there that we might be able to crab with other horses, like we don't really give much of a mention to like a Ginny's Destiny and stuff, but he looks solid enough. Martin looks workable, just real nice, obvious profile for it. And I talk about those scummy each way bets, like even at 4-1, you might get a little bit bigger on the day. He's not going to be out the frame, is he, Paul?
No, look, again, going back through that sort of process that I go through, you know, it is a race that's typically won with his kind of profile, you know, horse on the up. You know, the only horse really that comes close to that kind of racing is Theatre Man, and I believe this is the race that they're coming to, not the Ultima. And strictly speaking, you boys know I keep my own ratings. And strictly speaking, I have their rating exactly the same for this race. But then what you do is you then go back and look at which one's been trying, don't you? how have those ratings been achieved? And Credibility clearly hasn't been trying till the last time. And there's a lot more to come from him, whereas Theatre Man has been trying. So, and look, I suspect there is some more to come from Theatre Man too, but Credibility's got a bigger ceiling from where the two of them are, and I'm confident about that. His possible Achilles heel is his jumping. He can be a bit hit and miss occasionally. But he was a lot better last time, I would say. So his jumping is improving, and as we've already said, Cheltenham's one of those courses you can get away with it unless it's at a crucial time. So they would be the two I'm most interested in. Credibility is actually quite a confident selection. Then the other side of that, you look at horses like Shake 'em Up Parry and Rodoto, that constant course form that comes round and round and round again. We've seen that so often, particularly over this course and trip. And of the two, I'd probably prefer Shake 'em Up Parry. I think he's probably getting towards the ceiling in his mark, but that course form is worth a few pounds in its own right. I think he'll run a pretty big race. St. Felician, he's been jumping quite markedly to his left, but he was better last time. The other thing he did last time was settle, I thought, because he's been a bit sketchy, a bit headstrong. I had him pegged down as a 2-miler earlier in the season because they just couldn't quite get him to properly settle. But last time he was a lot better. So there's some improvement to come from him as well. And it's been very quiet about him, I think. He's not really said too much about him. I quite like that when Elliot doesn't say too much about his handicap chasers. So I think there's improvement to come from him too. Look, if I was shortlist of 4 horses, Credibility, Theatre Man, St. Felician and Shake 'em Up Parry, but confident selection is Credibility. If somebody's looking for something at a bigger price further down, I think horses like Adalco B, who could get in. He's off 1-3-4, and he had 3 chase runs. He won the October meeting as a novice. So that's one of Tristan Davis's. Venetia's got Denmat down on 1-3-2. Probably real borderline whether he gets in. I marked his race up at 1-4-3 at Ludlow, £11 better than his mark. So potentially there's a lot in his mark. The owner's also owns Arctic Brazil on 1-3-5, £3 higher, more likely to get in, but I wouldn't be so keen on that horse, I don't think. So just a few horses maybe to consider there, but Cribber is quite a strong selection.
Nice. Jamie, thoughts on the play? Because it seems fairly solid. The people saying in the comments are like nailed on for the forecast. I feel like it does look like a bit of a match between Cribbilly and Theatre Man.
Maybe. Dave, I would put anyone off. Dave, I don't really fancy anything strong in here, Dave, to be honest with you. Yeah, you can't knock Cribbilly, can you really? It's just well handicapped. And like we were there in November at the rail, and like he jumped fence well enough, really. Didn't he just crumbled on landing against Ginny Destiny, and he looked like he was coming to win the race in that race in November, to be honest with you. Then came out and won at Exeter. Timorous then was he in that race, and Timorous was just touched off in a grade 2 by Blow Your Wad, so the form was there. You couldn't put anyone off. The only Irish horse I like here, but look, like I see people kind of cribbing Cribbilly's jumping, like he could crib St. Felicien's jumping as well. Like, but you know, he's like 1-4-6. He was 1-4-9 in favour for Carl Cup 2 years ago. He's running all the right races, I think, in beginner chases in Ireland. Just beaten by In the Pocket, Fast Out Vega, the decent horse that Willie Mullins couldn't keep fit, Indiana Dream. And he just went out gore on the last day. So I think he'll come here, and I think you'd see an improved performance from him off 1-4-6. But look, off 140, like I know it's unoriginal, like, but I like Cribbilly should win, shouldn't he?
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think we're all, especially the more we do this, the more we talk about it, it's very hard to get away from, isn't it? You can go back and do the race multiple times, but he is what he is, isn't he? I think he's got a good chance. It's there for all to see. I don't think he's a terrible price either, so we'll leave it at that. One I do think has got a good chance, but I don't think is a very, very good price, is in the Mares Novices Hurdle. Brighter days ahead, regardless of what Gordon Elliott said about her. I think she's been the one that has taken the biggest and most tangible improvement through the season. Like, jumps a lot better. I know people could say about the distances and all that type of stuff, but it's much of a muchness. She's clearly got a massive engine. They clearly hold her in very high regard. She's got like a very obvious chance. I do think she's plenty skinny enough now. I'm not saying I want to like egg on my face if she goes and wins to put anyone off the bet, but I think most people would probably be able to just see a similar thing. Like I don't think she's value at 6-4. I reckon you better get bigger on the day. I think a few people will lay her out there. Jade DeGrugy does look good. You've got to respect any Willie Mullins novice, regardless of sex, haven't you? I'll just quickly touch on Dyson Enos and try and not be too rude about it. Obviously, Fergal's dodged the £5, right? But I said on Sunday that I think I said it on Sunday anyway. I think you get more. Like the £5 is only worth what the £5 is. Like if you got a £5 claimer, there's a reason why they get the claim. And the £5, she would have got more experience, or it would have been worth the £5 for her to get better experience of racing in what I would consider better races. The other caveat to that is Fergal could have run her in many races that were better than she's ran in and not given her the penalty. So he's not doing it to not get the penalty. He's using it as an excuse to run her in shit races, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that lack of experience is what is going to find her out more than anything. I know Paddy Brennan can be a confident jockey, like a bit almost like the Jamie Spencer, isn't he? Out sometimes at the back. I think he could be outridden on this one. And when you might just need a horse to have been in that situation before and need to knuckle down and try and find something, or at least to travel at those sorts of paces, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this responsibility is going to have to unfortunately fall into Paddy Brennan's hands to make this horse go and do it, because it is essentially a novice race, isn't it? Same as you wouldn't put the novices against the elders straight up. If you did that, you'd have to give them some sort of weight allowance. The £5 is negligible for her against the other ones. Like I haven't liked since the start of the season. She may well go and win, but it's not just one that she's got to go and beat. Both Brighter Days Ahead and Jade DeGrugy, as far as I'm concerned, both look a lot better than Dysart Enoch. So I've said probably too much. Probably going to end up with egg on my face because, well, whatever fucking happens by the sounds of it, Brighter Days Ahead will win and I'll put everyone up and back and I'm at 6-4, or Dysart Enoch will do in the nod or something like that. But yeah, Brighter Days Ahead, I feel fairly straightforward that she'd win this, but it's a mare's novice hurdle. I'd never be going in with confidence, especially after doing my bollocks on Lucia last year. Probably not the best person to talk about it. Paul, mare's novices hurdle. Have you got a stronger handle on this as you do with the handicaps?
Yeah, look, if you listen to everything that Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy have said, you know, it's pointless anything else turning up, isn't it? But I'm not sure. I agree with them. I keep my own ratings, and you know, I have Jade DeGrugy. You know, basically she started later. She's been effectively a race behind Brighter Days Ahead all the way through, but you know, she's been hitting the same ratings a race earlier than Brighter Days Ahead, and I just think there's more room for improvement coming from her. You know, they've talked about both of them being stayers ultimately. They're both going to make really nice chasers probably next year. And I don't think there will be a lot between the two of them. And I can't sit here and say it'd be a shock if Brighter Days Ahead did win. But, you know, just in terms of the way I go about things and the methodology I use, then I think there's more room for improvement and more headroom in Jade DeGrugy. And, you know, the time that you're going to find that is when you turn up at the festival, isn't it? So I actually do quite like it.
Yeah, fair enough. Jamie, thoughts on the race?
Yeah, look, the ground now, it all depends, as I said on Sunday there about the ground. If the ground is coming out for the two Irish mares, there's no doubt about that. And the way Jade DeGrugy won on soft heavy ground, Leopardstown has to come in big time here now. But it's like the old saying, what I said on Sunday is that I'm going against two stairs, really. They are stairs, the two of them, and it probably is more a stairs race. To me, Dysart Enos looks like she's the fastest horse in the race, but look, I think she might be a bit ground dependent compared to the other two. Do you know what I mean? So on that, if I'm going now, and the moment it's soft heavy in places at the moment, I think Jade DeGrugy is an absolute shoe in here. Really, I think really do. Like, do you know what I mean? But I back Dysart Enos. I'm hoping for a bit of better ground, but look, at the present moment in time, you'd have to be Jade DeGrugy here. Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough. I think
Darryl was Jade DeGrugy as well, wasn't he? I think.
Darryl was Jade DeGrugy as well, and I think that's the key thing with, like I say, with Brighter Days Ahead. Like she's definitely short enough now, so I do think if you're like me and you do like her, then I've got no doubt she'll be a bigger price at some point before they run on the Thursday. Kim Muir Challenge Cup. We've had the terrible, terrible news that a trainer has done the right thing by a horse, which is Gavin Cromwell's not going to run Percival to Gallagher after he got absolutely slaughtered by the handicapper. Firm Footing's not in the race. We knew that out, or we found that out on the Sunday as well. Cool Survivor, obviously with Gordon not having Firm's Footing, was probably the obvious shortener back then anyway, and has been doing so since. I did, for all my sins, still like Percival to Gallagher. I don't know whether I said it on Sunday either. I can't remember by this point, but I felt the inclination with him, like we touched on with a Banbridge and all those types of things. I felt like if Gavin Cromwell ran the horse, he would have felt that he had enough to do himself justice. The fact that he's not running him, like I say, I applaud him for the fact I was on non-runner money back anyway. But it's no good, is it? If the trainer runs them and knows they can't win just for the sake of a jolly, you do your bollocks whichever way spun round. So he's not running. So I would have been on Percival to Gallagher. Couldn't really care about the race anymore. I haven't had the time to redo it. But you boys will have a strong opinion here, I think. Paul, I'll come to you first as you're the king of the handicaps. Bit of the complexion of this has changed a little bit recently, but has it made you change your mind?
No. Look, I think I know the way you're thinking is a strong favourite for good reason. People were thinking, as his price was dropping through the week, when he was getting down to 6-1 to 5-1, he was getting quite sure. I think he's actually found his correct price now. Weirdly, I think he is a long way clear of these. I think he's a borderline graded horse in my mind, running against handicappers, and we've got a borderline graded horse that's running off 144 or 145, whichever one it is. I think there's a load of headroom in his mark, if I'm really honest. I think the rest are running for places. If your thing is to find something each one, because again, now at the price he is, I'm not going to sit here and say you should be having the house on. I think that price went at about 4-1 personally. But if you're looking for each way alternatives, you've got Wacker Clan from that October meeting form. Still may not get into the race, but if he does, he gets in off 131 or something. He gets in a stone lower than I know your way of thinking, but I know your way of thinking is probably 2 stone better, so that's fine. Cool Survivor's Gordon Elliott's horse for the race. You've got to respect that, given his record in the race. Battle of Greatness ran at Kempton, was given a pretty poor ride, I thought, but also looks as though he probably needed the race. So I think he'll come off for that. I think he's a decent horse. Angel's Dawn, £10 higher this year, I think. Does she have the same chance of £10 higher when she was on the nod with Stumptown? I'm not sure. I don't think Stumptown wins the Ultima, so I don't think she wins this. I think she can place. One that I'd perhaps put up as a bigger price, although there has been some money, a little bit of money for it. It's Cloudy Glen. I understand Cloudy Glen comes here, not the Ultima. He's off 142. That's got to be a nice price for a horse of his background with the course form. And older horses do run into places. They don't win. I'm putting Cloudy Glen up as a winner. But if you're looking for something at a bigger price, then go with that. Just one other thing I'd say before I stop is that I still think it's possible. I mentioned it with the Ultima that Kim Barry may send either Chianti Classico or Trelawn here. I think it's a possibility. And if one of those two comes here, it does change the complexion of the race slightly.
Jamie, your thoughts on the race? Paul mentioned Stumptown and you've managed to hold back the tears. You can let it out in front of us. You're with friends, mate.
That hurt. Yeah, that hurt. Look, Dave, I was all over Percival for this for a long time, and I said it. Look, there at the Dublin Racing Festival on the Sunday, and I thought he would have won the race against Hartwood, but look, in hindsight, he probably wouldn't have, but he'd have been close. No, exactly. Echo what Paul says. Look, I'm basing this that 145 that I don't know where you're thinking got. And he's third behind 2 Grade 1 winners at Limerick and the Grade 1 Faheen at Christmas behind Gaelic War and Ilete Thump. And he's definitely better than 145. Look, I advise anyone go back to watch the race in Dublin Race Festival. This race is a 2-hand reel all day long. It's between I know the way you're thinking and Good Time Johnny. Don't buy into the fact that Good Time Johnny can't jump a fence. He hasn't been trying. Just go back to watch the race. There were 2 lengths between the two of them. They didn't try a yard. And look, it's between the two of them. Maybe I go what Derek O'Connor is on. I just think he's just a mustard around the Kim Muir. It's either or for me, but I probably would go with the horse that I've said all year long that I will win a big handicap. And here is probably my handicap nap at the festival, really. I know the way you're thinking it.
Nice. Right, that's nicely put in there about naps of the festival, because let's do our naps for Thursday. If anybody in the comments can guess my nap for Thursday, I'm joking. Tiapu shits home in the stayers. I'm definitely probably seeing this in the wrong way, but I still don't think 9 to 4 is a bad price. He's just one of those that he just wins. So any price is a reasonable price. I know values out there, and I'm a big advocate of that as well, but I don't think he's a terrible price, to be honest with you. I'd have him a lot shorter than that, but I'm probably biased. TFP wins the stayers, in case you haven't heard it. Jamie, your nap's got to be, I know you way you're thinking if it's your best bet of the week or best handicap bet of the week.
Yeah, I know the way you're thinking. Yeah.
And Paul, no doubt you've got us a nice little double as well as a nap, please.
Yeah, so the preview evening, I put up Krabilly, and I know the way you're thinking is an each way double. There's been some contraction on the prices since Sunday. But what I was going to suggest was actually put Grey Dawn in there for an each-way treble, because that's a proper filthy each-way treble, that is. I can't see any of those horses out of the place, so if you just want to just make some money, it's a great way of doing it, isn't it? But, all three of them with outstanding win chances. But I suppose, I'll probably have to put up Protector out, because I just think he's just probably the best value bet of the meeting right now.
Happy days. I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen out there, it's like, it's not the same as every year at Cheltenham, right? There's get small little windows of where it's almost a bit more obvious. You're getting some absolute class this evening. I feel that we're able to spread it across a few races as well, that we're not taking each other on so much, to be fair. And that isn't by design. We're not just being polite to each other, but it's always nice when everyone can win, right? Instead of it being a bit of a face-off of strong fancies, because someone's always wrong in that situation. Speaking about being wrong, the exchange 2.3 or 2.4, Sergino went a little bit earlier. I don't know why people are laying him. I think he's an absolute good thing. Daryl on the preview said that he would be the best bet, the banker of the entire meeting. I'm not reading into anything other than the fact that I don't know why people are trying to lay him, to be honest with you. Lucia last year, I loosely touched on her. She was a bit weak going into the Cheltenham Festival, and I say a bit weak. I can't remember what price she was in the sports books. She was about 6 to 4 or 2 to 1 poke or something, but people just kept putting up like thousands for her at like 3 and 4 to 1 on the exchange, and I kept nibbling up bits of it because it just felt too good to be true. Like I thought I put myself in a good position, so it's worth keeping an eye on these like stonking drift ones, because if someone knows enough, they'll put enough money behind it rather than it just being people pissing about of it. But Sergino, for me, is like, I think he's definitely the winner of the race. Yes, he's plenty short of 4 to 6, but no, when you're getting sort of 6 to 4 or 11 to 8 on the exchange, I feel like you'd have to advise him as a bet. I think the price, I think it's just too big. Like, it's not even just saying you're getting 5 to 4 and a 4 to 6 poke, but you are 4 to 6 isn't even necessarily a terribly short price. So me and Darren are very much in the camp that Sergino wins. I wouldn't even want to look for one in behind. I think you can throw a bit of a blanket, pick holes in a few of them. I think the Irish form at Dublin Race Festival, that I think the first one I've ever forgotten. It's Spring Juvenile. He's always a really good pointer towards it this season, towards this race. But I just think this season Sergino's so far ahead. So happy to stick with him. But we've been burnt with shorties in a Triumph before, but not this time around. Sergino wins. Jamie, Triumph hurdle. Is there anything, or is there any point betting against Sergino?
Yeah, as I said on Sunday, Dave, there is it's a Triumph. It's Juveniles. You just don't know. But he looks bomb-proof. He does and the way he ran up the straight in the trial was unbelievable. I thought it was very eye-catching. Look, 2 eye-catchers. Look, Carrageese, I said on Sunday, Carrageese won the race. Don't like her. I think that was her day. The last day of the Spring Juvenile, I thought Majbra was very eye-catching in the race, and look, he's going to be a better horse down the line. I wouldn't put anyone back in him, but I suppose that little bit of a dreaded bounce is in my head for him, if there is such a thing, that he ran so well in that race. But I backed him, I got 16s ages ago, I just took a chance on the hype kind of thing. Look, I thought Stormhark got an awful ride in the Spring Juvenile, and I think he's better, and I think he looked like Majbra for the future, but at the time with the presence of the race, the last day in the Spring Juvenile, I thought he looked like the best horse in the race. And look, I wouldn't put anyone off backing it if you want to back against Sergino each way, Stormhark, but look, Sergino will win.
Nice, Paul. Straightforward enough race, is it?
Yeah, although I think there is an angle to this race. Sergino clearly has put up the best performance we've seen so far this year. It's backed up on the clock. It was visually probably better than it actually was, because I'm not sure how hard Melantino was trying that day. And Bartlett Road, that's probably I know it was only beaten whatever it was, but it was better the previous time. And it's now out as well. So, but I think the angle into this race is ground, actually. Again, just having a real think about this over the last few days. Some of these juveniles can be very ground dependent, or they can improve significantly for better ground. They've all of them been running on soft ground all season, every single one of them. So there is an angle here that if we do have a dry lead up to the festival and we do have a dry week, or a relatively dry week, we could be on good to soft ground by the time we get to Friday. If that's the case, the two horses that I see making a real big step forward, the Stormheart and Ethical Diamond. As Jamie said, Stormheart got a shock of a ride at the Dublin Racing Festival. Up until that point, it put up easily the best figure I had for the juveniles this season. So, and that run is clear second best to Sergino at Sergino's run at Cheltenham. So, just bearing that in mind and the possibility of some better ground, I think Stormheart is massively overpriced. What price is he now? Has there been any money for him in the last day or two?
10 to 1.
Which one?
Stormheart.
Stormheart or Ethical Diamond? Stormheart still 10 to 1. Ethical Diamonds 25 with Coral Ladbrokes, but as short as 12s in places. 14s sort of generally now. Okay,
so I would genuinely recommend Stormheart as a bet. I think you probably have to back it each way because of Sergino. But if I started to get to the point where I thought that was going to be good to soft ground on the Friday, I'd start to be loading up a little bit on him, I think. Mm-hmm. Because I do think you'll get some maybe evens or slightly odds against either the night before or on the morning for Sergino. And so I think, if somebody that hasn't had a bet, you've got to wait for that, because I think that will happen. But if we get good to soft, I'll be loading up on Stormheart. Actually, I think he will be very close to Sergino. I'm absolutely confident of that. The other improver I said would be Ethical Diamond at 25 to 1. I wouldn't necessarily put anybody up a bet at that each way anyway. But look, I have to sit here and say there's some speculation to that. If you're looking for the solid bet, it has to be Sergino. But at 4 to 6, you're not backing him, are you?
No, especially and again, I know it's different because these are non-runner money back, aren't they? But especially when you're getting that 5 to 4 on the exchange, which, like Paul correctly said, will definitely be about on the Friday when they want to take some money. The bookies will either be trying to get their money back from doing their bollocks, or they'll be so far ahead they want to be trying to give some of it back. Whichever way you want to spin it, I think they'll be taking Sergino on. Who knows what will happen with Henderson as well by that point. If Henderson's not had a winner by that point, maybe people will start reading into that more. But form is form, right? County Hurdle's coming up now. County Hurdle, Jamie, this is probably one when you back Protectorat before he was born, you probably bet King of Kingsfield for the county before he was born as well. Another one I'll give you a good nod to, because you did mention this a very, very long time ago. He is our current 7 to 1 favourite. We'll just have to say again, Darryl was very keen on Iberico Lord. I think he was just saying that his repetitive form of this season is by far the best. Still thinks he's unexposed off of his mark, essentially. So he quite liked him in here. The one that I like, it's good to see he's shortening up as well. They were listening on Sunday, weren't they, gentlemen? Bayadi Stock's the one that I like, right? I think this horse has been given a few suspicious rides, but maybe not suspicious because maybe the horse is a bit of a rogue. I think he's had cheap pieces on before, or a hood. Maybe they'll bring that sort of stuff back. But he had that run in the Royal Bond behind King of Kingsfield, and he lost a good few lengths when they turned in. Had he have gone with King of Kingsfield at the same time, basically if he had gone, not saying it was the jockey's fault, Paul Townend, because he was on board. They did back him that day, but I don't know. I'm not saying it was his fault. Maybe the horse didn't respond quick enough, and then he hung a little bit right and then came out. But there was excuses why he finished where he finished behind him, and I think on another day he could have been ahead of him. So I think the fact that he gets the pound is quite positive. He also was travelling really well at the Dublin Race Festival. Now, because they got rid of that hurdle because of low sun, the second is on the bend and it's a long way out. So you couldn't say that anything at that point you could call as the winner. But you certainly would think, again, he was supported off of a mark of 138 in Ireland, that he wouldn't have been too far away. So I think there's at least 2 runs there and recently where I think he could have done better than what the actual result ended up being. They have talked about him as maybe being like a Galway hurdle type horse and a Galway plate, but I just think that he could be the right horse for this race. I definitely think there's more to him. I also said it at the preview night, and it is definitely worth talking about because he's a very different type of horse. We know the profile for these type of horses has had to change because we get the 4 runs in him. He had a fair few runs in bumpers, didn't he? But he had his bits taken away January last year as well. So he's been gelded and then come out. So I think he's got more improvement than some of the other horses in here. So like I say, that Royal Bond form, I think he's better than King of Kingsfield, even though he finished behind him, or at least he's got the potential to be better. And I genuinely do think he's improving far more than the like of a King of Kingsfield is there. He is, look, a 10-1 pope now. So it's not exactly like I'm picking something out at a massive price and giving you a bit of a swing at it. And I think a few people will have seen him in his last couple of runs, especially after being backed as well. But I give Bialystock a pretty strong chance in the county hurdle. I don't think there was anything massively at a bigger price that I actually stuck with in the end. I got end up blindsided by Bialystock, but I think he's got a chance. Jamie, King of Kingsfield, I've already given you a little nod towards him. Is he simply the winner of the race, or would you want some cover, or have you gone off him?
I was laughing at Darren, of course, saying I was cribbing him about a Birica Lord on Sunday, saying that he can't win 3 big handicaps in the season. But look, the forecast soft ground now he's coming into, isn't he? And I was basing on it. I'm basing it now, Dave. And look, God, all seriousness, you're looking at it now that if it's the forecast ground of Birica Lord comes into it, like remember we said King of Kingsfield to start the season. I think he just needs better ground to be seen at best light. I think he needs better ground to stay the trip, to be honest with you. I think he's a 2-miler, but the extra furlong might kill him if it's soft ground, do you know what I mean? So I think he needs Absur to me needs good ground as well. Under Control probably needs good ground. If the way the forecast ground is at the moment, my Martin Pipe selection I think will come here, and it's Lisnagar Fortune. I really like this horse, and because we'll get on to the next race in the Albert Bartlett, why he's formed behind a Grade 1 winner. That maiden at Cork looks very good. Reading Tommy Brown beaten by half a length. Staffordshire Not, I think he's a better horse than he showed last day against Larry Hill and Turles. Then he went on to win a race at Punchestown afterwards, Lisnagar Fortune, and the horse that was about 8 lengths behind it came out in one of his, a horse called Mercury, who Paul mentioned there earlier on in the pod. Yeah, I really like this horse if it ran here. Now, I think it hopefully runs in the Martin Pipe because I backed it in the Martin Pipe. But look, I wouldn't put anyone off here at 14-1. Top price there, Lisnagar Fortune. But the horse that I've backed all year for it is King Kingsfield and Absurd. I'm hoping for a bit of better ground. Look, I mentioned Under Control as well. I probably had a little bit on Under Control. Backed it more for a Carl Cup. They're gone and dead and buried. But look, Lisnagar Fortune at the moment would be my bet here because I think he might come in here if the ground is soft.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, Paul, we'll direct this back to you because, again, Handicap King, we're giving you the title until proven otherwise. I mean, this isn't something we specifically talked about, but Pied Piper was the closest Davy Russell got to riding a festival winner last year, wasn't it? Little head away he was. A lot of people have talked about him. I think they've talked about a claim of being on top of him. Few people, even Ruby Walter, said that he's well handicapped. Is Pied Piper well handicapped enough to win the race?
Well, he's potentially with a top claimer on. He 12 months ago tells us he can go reasonably close, doesn't it? But you kind of think it'd be a bit bonkers not to take him to the Champion Hurdle now, don't you? Just why wouldn't you really? Something happens to State Man, misses a hurdle at the wrong time, a fall, you've got to be in that to win that Champion Hurdle now. And if I was the owner of Pied Piper, I'd be banging Gordon's door down to run in the Champion Hurdle. But maybe they come here. I suppose if they come here and I'm saying that, then he has to have some kind of chance, doesn't he? So yeah, he's got good form round Cheltenham as well. So But I just think there's more unexposed horses in there. It's a different kind of race to a champion hurdle, isn't it? If you have something that's close to that kind of class that's still relatively unexposed, you can lose to it. So, assuming it handles the sort of rigors of the race. But this race, again, just looking at history, bit like the Coral Cup, really. You want a Willie Mullins horse, you want a Dan Skelton horse, or at least you want an Irish horse, generally. So I'm going to go completely against that straight away and say I think Iberico Lord has a really good shout. There are always going to be exceptions to the rule. It doesn't work out 10 years out of 10 kind of thing, does it? And whilst I know when we did the preview night, Jamie had some reserves about being able to go and win a Great Wood and a Betfair Hurdle, and then going on again to win a race like this, I don't think he'd be out of place in the Champion Hurdle at all. Actually, if I was Nicky Henson right now, I'd be really, really tempted to supplement that horse for the Champion Hurdle, because I think he is borderline that ability now, and the reason that he's not had that opportunity was because of Constitution Hill. So, I don't know whether it's on their mind, I don't know whether it's on JP's mind, I wouldn't have a clue, but I would absolutely 100% supplement that horse now for the Champion Hurdle. So if I'm saying that, then I have to give a really good shout out to Loda Sud. So if you go back to that Betfair Hurdle, Harry was the one that pressed the button first and came away from the field. And Nico held on and, did him well. It felt to me that Loda Sud was probably just starting to idle a bit, and Iberico Lord still had enough left to go past him. But those two horses came well clear of what was actually quite a good quality Betfair Hurdle field, I thought. I heard lots of good cases being made for other horses for that race, and those two came clear. They didn't just come, beat the third by a length or two, did they? They were clear, like two proper classy horses. And Loda Sud is totally unexposed. That's not the ceiling of that horse's ability, and I reckon that has a real good shout. There's no problem with that horse getting up the hill. They can ride him, and as the Skelton horses tend to be, pick their way through, find their way through. Hopefully thereabouts come the last, and then power on up the hill. And I think there's every chance of doing that. King of Kingsfield's on my list, same as Jamie. I think he's on everybody's list, but I have the same reservations that if we do have soft ground by the time we get to the last day, I'm not sure he's necessarily going to get home. I think exactly as Jamie does. I think he is an out-and-out two-miler, and that's his limit. And when you get one of these massive handicaps like this, it might not actually play to his strengths. He's been jogging around in novice hurdles, don't forget, where they're not going fierce gallops. So, there's got to be some risk to him. I get the point that James is saying about Absurd under control of King of Kingsfield. I think all three of those come into the reckoning if we do happen to be dry for the next couple of weeks. Favois is only £2 higher. Got to shout out that's chance. But I think that will get beaten this time around. Magical Zoe, I think, is interesting. I think she's very unexposed. So the two that I'm going to say are Iberico Lord and Loda Sud. I would not be shocked at all if Iberico Lord was supplemented. And JP's number one for this race became Petit Tonnerre. He's only off 136. He made a crucial mistake last year, wasn't beaten too far. He's £4 better off than he was. They've been running him over fences this year, which he just didn't like. But there's a French form. If you want to get a handle on where this horse could be, just look at Heartwood at the Dublin Racing Festival. Those two met in France because they're both ex-French. Petit Tonnerre beat Heartwood quite comfortably, carrying £3 more in France. Heartwood is now rated 148. £12 higher, and I know you shouldn't make the direct relationship between hurdles and fences, but I am going to make it because I do think it's relevant. I think Petit Tonnerre is potentially a really well-in horse. I think he will improve again. I don't think the fact that he's run over fences will do him any harm at all. And I think he's going to be there or thereabouts at the business end. So I think he's an able deputy actually to Iberico Lord if Iberico Lord goes to the champion hurdle. And I know nobody's talked about that happening anywhere. I've not heard it mentioned in a single place, but I'm putting that out into the ether and Twitter sphere and everywhere else so that somebody might listen to that, because that horse should be in the champion hurdle and it will go there with a genuine chance.
Ooh. Oh, I mean, this is extra content you wouldn't have got on Sunday. Oh, bullish. Right, let's move on. Oh, someone's made me resize the odds checker thing, and now it's hard to go on the next race. We'll move on. Albert Bartlett, it got a loose little mention there by Jamie, talk about the fact that he'll come onto that when he was talking about form lines with Liz Nagar Fortune. We know, right? We talk about like the types of horses that win this race. We do know that this is very much a market you can bet on the day. A lot of them will SP, maybe bigger than they've been on the anti-post markets a few months before. Certainly happened a few years to myself. It does look a nice competitive race where I think that plenty of people could have opinions in it. I put it up like early in the season, Chapeau de Soleil for this race. I'm still not jumping off shit with that, even though Willie said he's going to go Byron Bingham. Who knows what they could do with the orders of him? Like, I still think he's got ability, but he would lack the 2 mile pace that would typically fit the profile of this race. Like, I haven't got a strong handle on this race in any way, shape, or form. You can clearly tell that I just said Chapeau de Soleil for fuck's sake, and he's been confirmed. He doesn't even come here, but has he been confirmed or not? It's a hard one. There's a few towards the front that I can kind of half like. This will be the type of one I think I'd happily play a couple or a few, but I'm waiting until nearer the time. Paul, best chance of a winner in the Albert Bartlett, please, mate.
Yeah, look, Willie Mullins seems to have it stitched up, doesn't he? With his straight at the front of the market, reading Tommy wrong, Dancing City, and what's the other one?
High Class Hero.
Reading Tommy wrong. High Class Hero, Dancing City, that's it.
I think I get the feeling that High Class Hero is the horse that Willie thinks is the best. But, you know, when you get to these horses, these novices that are good and over 3 miles, I think it's actually quite hard to know. I think he knows just as much as we do which one of those is the best, will be the best over this trip. So we are guessing to a degree. Obviously, in terms of a bet, there is still some speculation whether Reading Tommy Wrong comes here or goes to the Ballymore. So, you know, kind of just can't have him for that reason. But I do respect his chance if he comes here, clearly. I prefer Dancing City, I think, to High Class Hero. I think High Class Hero might end up being the better long-term prospect, actually. But I think Dancing City is probably better prepared for this race particularly. But it wouldn't be a strong selection. I think the best of the UK horses, without doubt, is Captain Teague. I think he's way ahead of anything else. Shannon Bob, I don't think he's ever going to be a horse that I can really warm to. I'm not sure that was a particularly good race at Cheltenham that he won. He looked very paceless doing it as well. You know, he looked like a horse in the future, just gonna want marathon trips. I wouldn't be strong with a single selection in this, so I'm just going to give an each way alternative, and that's Irish Panther. You know, he's been second to everything really since his bumper days. And I think he's just a really nice horse. He's a massive price. I think it's something like 66 to 1 day available for him.
15 on run of money back you can get.
All right, so he was 66. But 50 is a great price for him, I think. He is the kind of horse that, you know, appears from nowhere that wins this kind of race. You know, he's run in every decent race. You know, second, knocking on the door. You know, he doesn't deserve to be that price, if I'm really honest. I think he's just a knocking great each way bet.
Nice. 3 places up for the grabs at the moment. Obviously on the day, and it will be. If not, Paul Beck bet will lay you the bigger places. Is Albert Bartlett's always a big field, and I think it's also the lure of having a runner on Gold Cup Day. They got to be offering 5 places on the day, probably, haven't they? But then, do you think his 50s will go? Would you rather bet him now or then?
Yeah, I'd back him now. You know, look, maybe on the tote on the day. Often get bigger prices on the tote, but I'd want the 50s now just in case there was just a little bit of a run. If it ends up being when all the horses come out and it just looks a little bit thinner. I don't think that's going to be the case because you can have 3 Willie Mullins horses heading the market. But I just want I already have somebody down at actually 66s, and if there's a wild price of the tote, I'd probably just have another go on the tote on the day.
Yeah, fair enough. Jamie, long time ago when we spoke to Gavin Lynch, I feel like you basically leaked some of his paid information. Well, you liked High Class Hero anyway, didn't you? You knew that Gavin had liked High Class Hero. That was a long time ago now. How do you see the race now? Have you gone off him, or do you still think he's the one to beat?
Oh, he still has a chance, Dave, yeah. But his early figures, yeah, definitely has a chance. You text me one day and he said, look how small he is. Yeah, I agree with you there, but yeah, look, he done it on the heavy ground in Thurles, and I don't think he's going to be that heavy that day in Thurles than it is at Cheltenham. Do you know what I mean? But look, I wouldn't put Journey off. I'm on a nice price, 12 to 1 or something like that. I got ages ago. But no, the one I really fancy here is Reading Tommy Wrong. I think Reading Tommy Wrong will win. Especially now because I like Lisnagar Fortune. It's just the way he picked up in the Lauders, Dave. And the 2 hurdles in the last 7 furlongs is going to help him big time. He just stays all day, and he was strong at the line at the Lauders. So yeah, 6 to 1 is huge, and I can't see him out of the first 3 or 4. And yeah, it's Reading Tommy Wrong for me. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's good to see that. Varied opinions again in the out Bartlett, but Willie's they have a good Friday, maybe, isn't he? Right, Gold Cup for Willie to finish off. Well, it won't be finishing off his Friday, will it? He's still got plenty more chances. He's barely getting going by the time the Gold Cup goes off now. Galloping de Champs at this stage is odds against with bookmakers. So I will repeat, Galloping de Champs is odds against for a Gold Cup. Seems mad. Years ago, you think about odds on favourites for a Gold Cup, particularly in this year where it does. I mean, for all you can grab a few horses in here, there's a hell of a lot of good horses in this race. Galloping de Champs, of course, was an absolute worldie. Do you remember when he got beat, didn't he, at the beginning of the season? Everyone thought he couldn't go and win a Gold Cup. He was beaten. They'd never come back, all those types of things. And he was 6 to 4 in that race against Jerry Cullen, wasn't he? Or even bigger. Like, it's mad. But obviously, he went and put up an outlandish performance there. Another one I was going to talk about on the exchange prices, because he's a little bit bigger on the exchanges. But again, with this being a big Gold Cup market, I suspect if you do want to get anything on Galloping de Champs, rather than sticking him in multiples or any of that type of stuff, it is the Friday. You're not hardly going to have him rolling into anything else. I'd be leaving him out of those multis and then just using some cash monies and betting him on the day, because either the bookies will want to get him beat or the exchange will. There is no way in the world, this is a Paul Beck Bet sponsors guarantee, there's no way you won't get bigger than 5 to 4 on Galloping de Champs on the day. I'm sure of it. Everyone else could disagree with that. For me, he does just win the race. I said at the preview, and I got laughed at this point, that Ahoy Senior, I wouldn't be surprised if he could be out of it. He was 80 to 1 when I made that comment, or he was 66 to 1, but they've all but said he goes to the Ryanair now, which is mad, isn't it? You've got a professional jockey in Jerick Fox who said that he thought last time he ran well enough that you'd run him in a Ryanair, when the last run was one of his worst performances in a long time. I thought, they know far more than I do. Galloping de Champs wins the Gold Cup. There's no point saying anything else. Jamie, tell me I'm wrong or tell me I'm right. Shishkin's in it. Give Shishkin a little mention.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dave. Galloping wins. He's a huge 5 to 4 is, Jesus, that's massive in my book. Anyway, like, that's insane. But yeah, look, the only two we all of us mentioned, really, Dave. Look, Shishkin, to me, like, he's either going to bomb or he's going to be there to second last with Gallopin. I hope he gets there. I really do, and made a best horse win. The other one was mentioned obviously by Darren, and if he was Lamb Press, look, you'd have to, if you really fancy Protectorate in a Ryanair, you'd have to fancy on the Fleur de Lis Chase form, the Lamb Press, and the way he won a Brown advisory that he come into it, and especially if we get this soft ground that stays all week, a huge player, 14 to 1 each way on his back class as a novice. I couldn't put you off 14 to 1 each way for him, because he is a really good horse, and the way he won the Brown advisory, he won it like a really good horse on soft ground. Do you know what I mean? But it's still Gallopin for me. You know my soft spots for Shishkin, and I wouldn't put anyone off Lamb Press each way 14 to 1.
Nice. I'm just quickly trying to put up one ready before I come to you, Paul. The betting without, he's 8 to 1 Lamb Press without Galloping de Champs, and he's 14 to 1 with him. 3 places, but essentially you're getting 4 places if you take Galloping de Champs out of the race, isn't you? Paul, have we been a bit rude to the other horse in it? Because it is a pretty nice renewal of the Gold Cup, but surely it's very difficult to see Galloping de Champs beat, isn't it?
I'm going to give you an angle, but I'll just come to that in a second. So look, I think Jamie, Daryl, and I all agreed that Long Press was the alternative to the favourite. My way of playing that was the without market. But I think it's just whichever style of betting you prefer, really. Whether you take 14 to 1 each way or 8 in the without. I prefer the without in that particular scenario. Galloping de Champ, I think, is much too big. I think most people, certainly the people that have been watching this kind of video, have already got the position that they would want on him, though. So the only way you're probably going to use that now is in some multiples, I would think, with some of the other shorter price horses that you like, or maybe perm in some of those. Shishkin, he's a hard one. He was coming to win that race in the King George. He's got a massive mistake in him, though. Every race, he's got a massive mistake in him. We've had him refusing to race once now as well. So he comes with a massive health warning. But he's a seriously talented horse. And I don't think anybody would actually begrudge a horse like Shishkin going and winning the Gold Cup, if I'm honest. I made a throwaway remark on a tweet a couple of weeks ago, just saying there'll be silence if Shishkin wins it. And I regretted it immediately, and then it followed. Do you know what I mean? Because he's got his supporters. But let me just throw a potential scenario out for you. I mentioned something on the preview even that actually got me thinking a bit further. I talked about the differences in horses like Denman and Corto Star. Corto Star won his races when Denman wasn't there. Let's be brutally honest. I'm talking about my favourite horse of all time. But in a fiercely run Gold Cup, Denman was always going to beat him. That's the truth. Corto Star was just so classy and so versatile. And Galloping de Champ is more of a Corto Star than he is a Denman. So the way to get Galloping beaten is turn the race into a war. And there's one owner that's got two horses in there that could do exactly that. Jerry Colomb will benefit for going two furlongs further and preferably softer ground. Gentleman's Game will stay all day. If I was that owner, one of those horses is going to turn that race into a war and have everything at it. Go hard to set it up potentially for the other one when it was that hasn't had to do all that hard work. Whatever decisions made, whichever way around, which way around I'd do it, but they may feel differently, and there's two trainers to consider as well. But I'd turn that race into a war with one of those horses, and I reckon if you turn that race into a war, Galloping gets beat. There you go. I'm probably the only person on any of these podcasts that's going to say I know how to get Galloping beat.
No, it's not a bad shout, is it? The only thing that makes me think about it in my head is because of the fact, obviously, we said it's the same owners, and I'm just thinking they're probably more likely to run one of them in the Championado than they are to tactically run a race to suit their own horse, isn't they? But you are right, and as much as people will say that doesn't happen in the game or whatever, it's the way to do it. Maybe there's something in that as well, isn't there? Maybe there's something in there. Right, we'll move on to the Hunters Chase, Foxhunters. This will be quick, right? I only have it on the line to talk about, and that's only because Jamie said about him. So, it's boring, isn't it? I can't really be bothered with the Foxhunters, to be honest with you. Jamie, do we need to add any more to it? I know Paul's got a couple that he's got on his short list.
I don't really like anything, Dave, to be honest. Like I said, it's on the line, but look, the hard race he had at Naas the last day. Look, Ferns Lock will come in here. Does he really stay? He's probably more on a 2.5 miler, really, isn't he? He'll come into this if the ground stays the way it is, because he'll relish if they go very slow, but they don't go slow in this, really, do they? Even with the soft ground. Do you know what I mean? So I'd be very worried off him off a fast pace, yeah. If they go walk, though, if they walk around, he'll win. If the ground stays the same. But I wouldn't be telling anyone put the mortgage on this at all. Definitely not.
Paul, I know when we did the preview night, there were people making notes, and I remember them making lots of notes from you in there. You gave a few that are worth considering for this race, right?
Yeah, look, let's deal with the favourite first. If he goes to Aintree and there's rain around, I'll have the mortgage on him. And if I was Christie, I'd be sending him there fresh rather than via here in soft ground. That's what I'd be doing. I think he's absolutely mad. Look, you never know how true these things, but you know the word is the owner has got the money down and just wants to run in the race. Well, you know what's the race worth at Aintree? You know, don't run that horse in this race. It's the wrong race for it. Aintree is the place to go. It's really good prize money, and you know any rain around that horse wins at Aintree. You know, it will be a class apart in that set of circumstances, but it doesn't win this race. It won't get home. It's on the line. I think is probably, if you take him out, would be a worthy favourite. I think he would have a favourite's chance. The fact that he's not favourite suggests that there's probably a little bit of value around him. Billaway's price has contracted. You know, when he was, you know, double figures for a horse of his background, actually there was some reasonable value about that. You know, he always gets turned over in his seasonal debut. We all know that. But we also know he runs well around here. As long as he jumps and doesn't, you know, make a stupid mistake somewhere, or Patrick doesn't have him too far back, you know, he's going to be there or thereabouts at the finish, isn't he? You know, irrespective of him being at that veteran stage, you know, he doesn't lack quality and a bit of back class. So Premier Magic, obviously, is last year's winner, probably has the same chance as last year. But, you know, I want to take all of those on. I want to take all of those horses on, despite everything I just said there, because I think there's a couple of horses a little bit further down that actually have really good chances as well. So I'm going to throw them out there. I'm just hoping that none of them have been pulled out, because one of them I'm just looking for in the market. I can't find it. Can you just double check the market for me, mate? I've just checked Sign Nameen. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, I've got it.
Sign nominated in, yeah, 16s top price, general 14s.
So I actually really like Sign Nameen for this race. It won the Champion Hunter Chase at Stratford. It won around Cheltenham in the Hunter Chase night there. You know, it's done everything that the last year's winner's done with some knobs on kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? The same age. And I think it comes into this race, in my opinion, as the best of the English Hunter Chases. And, you know, anybody will tell you, you know, that follows this kind of stuff, you know, that's the starting point for the form lines for this race, generally. There's a second horse that I'm going to make mention of at a bigger price, and that's Quintin's Man. That horse is a year younger in its development, but assuming it does come here, Quintin's Man won at the same Hunter Chase meeting at the end of the season at Cheltenham in May. Different race. Then went to the Champion Hunter Chase in the same race as Sign Nameen. Finished fifth, beaten a long way. So you have to forgive that race. But it clearly didn't handle the track. You know, good ground, sharp track. It just didn't handle at all. So for me, I'm quite happy. I'm quite prepared to give that a pass. Then I look at times and equivalent conditions and so on and so forth. I don't think there's a whole lot between those two horses, and I think they're both really smart. Now, it could be that Quintin's Man, it's a season too early for it. But I wouldn't put anybody off backing those two horses. You know, if the Hunter Chase scene isn't your thing and you want a couple of value bets, then I'd actually just recommend both of them now. I'd recommend backing them both now, because I think there'll be money for them closer to the time, or certainly on the day. So Sign Nameen and Quintin's Man, I'm going to put up as alternatives to the horses at the front of the market.
Lovely. 16s and 20s respectively. I'm definitely too tired at this point. Right, we've got the last couple of races to get up. Because I've zoomed in, it makes it quite tricky to get to there. So bear with me a second. It's the Mare's Chase we'll be moving on to next. I mean, it's almost Beacon, but it's not really Beacon because it's a girls' race. You can't have a Beacon in a girls' race. Allegory Devassi, like the bad ground. She has run on heavy loads, right? But I think she would be better on a little bit better. We don't know how bad it's going to turn out. It seems like it's going to dry. You'd imagine the worst, as it is now, it's not going to get any worse. By then, it's only going to get better. So I think Allegory Devassi to be able to go with Impervious as she did last year, arguably was flattered because she outjumped her at the last, so it made the winning distance look different. But Impervious had her battered last year. But there's no Impervious in this race this year, as far as I'm concerned. She's 4-1 top price, Allegory Devassi. Now, Limerick Lace would need it to be an absolute bog, and I still do think she lacks that bit of class. Just think on figures, Allegory Devassi has this sewn up. And like Dino Blue, we don't definitely know that she stays. I know we'll say it's only like the half mile up the hill, but you saw Allegory Devassi with Impervious. I know Impervious had this did Allegory Devassi for speed. It might look like after the last fence, but I don't believe that was the case. I think it shows that Allegory Devassi that does stay 2.5 was probably outstayed by something else. If Allegory Devassi jumps a length in front of Dino Blue, there's no way that horse goes back past her. I think 4-1's a bit of a rick. I think she's a big price. I think Allegory Devassi's got a massive shout, but it is a mare's race, so it is sort of temper of enthusiasm. I was just looking down at my phone then, because Ben texted and said that 2.9 is the lowest he's ever seen on the cross country in all his years of ever working there from early 2000s as well. Just FYI, that's why I was saying about how much it's going to dry out. But yeah, so it's slow enough ground. But yeah, Allegory Devassi, I think she's a cracking bet at that sort of price. She's within the realms of that scummy sort of each way price. But you could bet her with, I think, very little risk, because I don't see how she's out the free. Who knows? They might even chuck us 4 places on the day. Paul, Mare's Chase, one you're excited about? Any thoughts?
Yeah, look, I know all three of you guys were really keen on her. But what I will say is, again, just, the stuff you guys said just gets me thinking and makes me go back and look at stuff. And the Impervious form line was one that was pushed out there on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then I just went and looked back and I thought, but actually, that Impervious form line, what Dino Blue has done behind El Fabiolo, albeit over a different trip, and I'll talk about that in a second, is better form. That's better form than anything that Impervious did. So I'm not going to take the Impervious line the way it was said, because I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it at all, actually. But it becomes now about whether Dino Blue can replicate at that level of form at 2.5 miles. If you then talk about Impervious, do we believe Impervious would beat Dino Blue over 2.5 miles this season, or if they're at the same point of their career? And nobody can definitively answer that. Of course they can't. So it becomes about whether you think Dino Blue stays the trip, and then again having to think about how the race might be run. Now, Dino Blue, you can say, you can argue that Dino Blue isn't the best of jumpers because of the 2 mistakes that she made over the last two fences in the Grand Annual last season. But they were, and again, I've been back to watch her body of work. They were I can't say a one-off because there were 2 of them, but there were 2 successive mistakes that haven't been replicated in her other races. So I'm confident that jumping isn't an issue with her. And therefore, you then have to think about, if Mark Walsh is riding against Paul Townend, what do? Do you ride her to get the trip, or do you ride her assuming she gets the trip and to get the best out of her? And the best tactics that you believe would be Allegory Devassi. And then, when I look at Allegory Devassi, I could also argue the same thing and say she's possibly better over 2 miles than 2.5. Mm-hmm. So, that goes into the mix as well. But ultimately, the argument I'm going to make here is that if I'm Mark Walsh, what I'm effectively going to do is ride that my horse's speed anyway, because my horse jumps better than the other one. And if I'm anywhere near at the second last, and I'm ahead between the second last and the last, I'm going to win that race, because the other one is going to be off the bridle and shoving away, trying to get over fences, climbing over fences, because that's the way Allegory jumps. She's not fluent at all. So I would ride Dino Blue for her jumping. And, with that extra speed, get Allegory off the bridle and get her making mistakes. And if that happens, then Dino Blue wins that race.
Ooh, I like it. Jamie, I mean, we did like Allegory Devassi. Is Paul done enough to put you off yet?
No, he hasn't. No, I'm sorry. Dino Blue just doesn't stay. I might have egg in my face, just doesn't stay. And look, I said on Sunday, Dave, if they get into a battle, Dino Blue, they're by miles the best two horses in the race. Dino Blue and Allegory Devassi. But if they get in a battle, I think it'll set it up for someone else to stay past them. And it's exactly what you said. If that going stick stays low for fucking heavy ground, like Limerick Lace, I'm happy what I said in January at 8-1. She is the proven stayer here. There's no doubt about that. And I kind of agree with Paul that I think their Dino Blue and Allegory Devassi are definitely better at 2 miles. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going on the fact that the stair, and if the ground stays soft, they could probably drive out by Friday, and Dino Blue probably rock home now by me saying that. But I still I know she's short of class compared to Dino Blue and Allegory Devassi, but if the ground stays the way it is, I'm happy with my 8-1 each way on Limerick Lace because she's the proven stayer. And look, I'm happy with that. I don't like Dino Blue, and I'm going to make a queer suggestion here. I think she's delayed the meeting.
Ooh, even money as well. This is the beautiful thing when they get to those shorter price, right? It doesn't cost you too much to be laid. I know plenty of people have said things like Jenny's Destiny and them, but when you're laying them at 4s on, essentially, aren't you? Or you're betting them at 4s on, you've got these shorty ones. Well, that's the first little taste you've had of that. Well, it's good to see different opinions because it gives the viewers more chance of finding a winner if we tip up the first and the second favourite in a race. Speaking of which, let's move on to the Martin Pipe. Sunday, obviously, some things were said on previews by the time we got to this race because Queen of Bourbon was 6 or 7 to 1 Sunday morning and then had been bet into 4 to 1 by the time we did the preview. Made me flummox my whole argument basically. Like this horse, just wins. Like it's like I just think it wins. There's always like something. I say there's always something. There's always something like at a price that normally lures me, and there's always something that I try and look at for bigger figures in this race that I want to get on. It's worked out in the past. Sometimes it hasn't worked out. I really just can't get away from this horse being the Willie Mullins one. And I know it's a romantic thing, but the Gigginstown thing, getting it back in there as well. Like Willie wants to do every single one of his owners the best service he can do. The Gigginstown have obviously got an affiliation with this race. You've only got to look at the record of runners they've had in here. I can't remember what it is. I think it's 17 runners, 5 winners, and 4 places, something like that. They're always there or thereabouts with their horses. It definitely looks the first string, and even with the money that's coming recently, whether it's been tipping up on previews or whatever it is, it's looking pretty confident that he's going to be the first string, and I think he's going to go and win it. I did say on Sunday, and it is a bit stupidly, but favourites in this race are one to potentially not necessarily stick next to, so I'd rather he went off second favourite, but that's picking at small stuff. I think a few people would be on a bit bigger prices, but he's another one of those. I'd happily stick him in with some of the other shorter priced horses that I fancy. And I say shorter priced ones. We're talking like Krabilly at 4 to 1. We're talking about Queen of Bourbon at 4 to 1. Even if you like, I know the way you're thinking at 4 to 1. He's that sort of price, especially on the Friday, that if you stuck him in a few multis with some other 4 or 5 to 1 ones, you might be able to make his price attractive. But I can't get away from him. I did give a nod to No Ordinary Joe before he ran last time, and then he actually did look even more eye-catching, especially if we're talking about Henderson having a problem in the yards. You'd have to upgrade what he did on a weekend where everything else pulled up. But I'm less concerned about the yard form than anything else, and obviously he did well in the race last year, but Queen of Bourbon just wins, I think. He would be one of my strongest fancies in terms of actual genuine winners of a handicap. So, yeah, he wins it. Jamie?
Yeah, I wouldn't put you off him, Dave, to be honest with you, on potential ways. Look, as I said on the County Hurl thing, if listen to Gareth Fortune here, see there now it's 10 to 1 there now, right? You're Queen of Bourbon and him. If reading Tommy wrong is close in the Bartlett or wins the Bartlett, this horse will be close to be favourite with Queen of Bourbon. At the end, there'll be a plunge on this horse. I've no doubt about that if he runs here. The only other horse I fancy, and look, I've been giving it, obviously, and I've told you on Sunday, is Waterford Whispers. One at Galway during the year, and he started the season. And then beat the horse called Answer the Cave, and Answer the Cave then went on to win at Naas. And this horse was second at Christmas behind Champagne Emerald. Now, I know Champagne Emerald did nothing for the form afterwards, but look, watch the race back. Waterford Whispers got there, and look, I thought the handbrake went on. Look, if it gets in, it's very low, 133. It might barely get in. If it gets down at the foot of the weights there, I wouldn't put anyone off. It's been well backed. It's obviously been well supported now. And look, it was a huge price there last week, about 25 to 1 or bigger. But look, if Lisnagar Fortune runs here, I'll be all over it. And I'll have a skeptical each way on Waterford Whispers, yeah.
Nice. Paul, I feel like this again, we talk about this on Sunday. We've talked about this race between us, the two of us anyway. I feel like this is a sort of race, again, when you talk about we can whittle it down to a handful of horses, this has got to be one of the easiest ones to do that, right?
Yeah, look, generally it is. The market doesn't get it massively wrong, does it? I think the only one that we've had in recent times that has sprung from nowhere was Indefatigable.
That was Paul Webb's, wasn't it?
50s on the day. Sorry, say it, mate.
So yeah, that was Paul Webber's one, and that I know that did spring right. And this does sound like half time, but that was one that I stuck up as a lively outsider on my column. There was a couple of lines within her that actually just meant she was overpriced, and I think it was because of the fact that she was Webber's as opposed to anything else.
You'd have been a great second. Paul's after reminding me how much dollar signs were in my head with Connie of a Fire jumped the last time Ireland Pipe.
Yeah, I think we all suffered from that one. That was an anti-power moment. That was.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, Paul.
Yeah. So look, but that said, it's not necessarily the hot pot that wins it. So, look, Kay de Bourbon, I'm comfortable. I agree that's Willie Blunt is number one for the race. I think Mikey O'Sullivan is now said to be riding, and he will have first choice, which again makes me think, and I mentioned it earlier, that Sama Jess will probably go to the Coral Cup, and they'll split those two horses up. I don't think it's out of the question actually that Jamie's picked Lisnagar Fortune for the county could come here with a chance. I'm genuinely in two minds. Which of the two races for that horse? Excuse me. Waterford Whispers, another case in point that Henry de Bromhead is capable of handicapping horses. I'll just make that point again, as I mentioned it earlier. I think at the price, you've got to take Kay de Bourbon on. I think you have to take it on. It could well end up being a superstar, but I just think you have to take it on. Willie's had one of these horses in this race every year for the last 6 or 7 years, but only one of them's actually won, and that was Gallopin. Now, this could be Gallopin too, for all we know, but it could be any one of the others as well. And at that price, you have to take it on. Plenty of us will be on a bigger price, and it's an easy thing to say. But having that bigger price doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to take it on anyway. The one I actually do like is Better Days Ahead, because I think that Better Days Ahead has been campaigned for this race specifically. Gordon Elliott very deliberately got the runs in early, and it just looks to be well placed all season, shall we say. The drop back in trip last time was probably all you needed to know. It was all about getting the mark, and they've got a particularly attractive mark for that horse. That was well touted as out of its point to point. It was probably the most fiercely contested bidding war of his generation. And he was seen as a future Gold Cup horse. He had his bumper season where he was Gordon Elliott's bumper horse. I think, I think he's been on record as saying he never quite had him right all season, but he still ran pretty well in the champion bumper, I thought. And now we get to a novice hurdler that's off. What is it? 140? I think it's 140. I think it's 136 in Ireland. He was given £4 to 140. I think he could be seriously well in, because he's a graded horse for the future. He's a graded horse off 140. Horses like Iroko can win off a similar mark last season. I think Better Days Ahead can win this race. And he just feels like the right kind of horse as well. So I like him a lot for this race. And I think he's, 16s, 14s? There might be some money for him, I don't know.
Yeah,
What price is that?
14's top price, but that's only with
14.
Coral. He's 12 to 1 with Ladbroke, so he's probably a general 12 to 1 poke, but 11's probably more general, I'd say.
Okay, so there's been money for him, so he's been found in the market, but that's kind of what you want, isn't it? You know, that fits the profile.
100%.
Those horses that sit in that 8 to 14 to 1 kind of bracket tend to be the ones that win this race. So
Yeah.
he sits in that. No, he doesn't win the race because of his price, but he wins the race because the sexy good things are 5 to 1, 6 to 1. He's not the sexy one, is he? You know, he's not the William Mullins French bred that everybody's going to say is the next Gold Cup winner. He's just the right profile of horse for this race. If you want a big price, you need a good claim on these horses as well. So you know, Gordon is going to have a top claim on him, I reckon. The horse that I'd give out as a big price, you know, because they'll fill the places. There'll be some big prices in the places. That happens every year. Is a horse of Nigel Twiston-Davies, is Cuthbert Dibble. I'm putting him out as an each-way bet. He'll either have Finn Lambert or James Turner on there. Finn Lambert claims 5, James Turner claims 7. They're at the top end of the claimers, you know, with those kind of claims in the UK at the moment. I like both those young jockeys, but I like the horse as well. Strikes me as the right kind of horse for this race, and Twiston-Davies is doing really well with this type as well. So I think he's a good bet at a price. 25s, 33s, Dave. That kind of price, is he?
Yeah, 33s. You can get 40s with Ladbrokes, but it's 33s with Coral, so I wouldn't trust it. So yeah, 33s you can get in general across that one.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Lovely. Right. I think that's it. I think we've done all 4 days. I mean, we did want to do it as a summary, but we also didn't want to do you guys a disservice. So, boys, I appreciate you spending a couple more hours than I suggested it would take us to do this, but you love it as much as I do. Let's do Friday's best bets, and then we'll pick out our best bet across the week as well, just to reiterate to everybody what we fancy. So, Friday's best bet for you, Paul?
Load of Sud and Better Days Ahead and each way double.
Oh, God, this is beautiful. Allegory de Vasse would be my best bet on the Friday. Jamie?
Reading Tommy wrong.
Oh, all over the place. And we'll have to just say that Daryl was very much Sergino and best bet of his one for the week. So on that note, best bet across the week, I'll go last because otherwise I'll just start shouting out TFP, but I'll put my level head on and I'll think to myself, genuinely, what do I think is the one best bet of the week? So Paul, one single, you can only pick one. You can do whatever you want. If you want that one to be an accumulator in all the handicaps, you're more than welcome to, but it can only be one bet.
It's another way you're thinking, a Krabilly double.
Jamie?
Ballyburn and the Supreme with a double, but I know the way you're thinking in the computer.
Jesus. I mean, I feel a lot of pressure now. Fuck it. Tiapu will win the state and just get a lot on. Right, boys, again, I really appreciate your time. Everyone that spent the time watching this, really appreciate that. All the support on the channel is massively appreciated. That's pretty much it for content now up until Cheltenham. However, from Sunday at 48-hour declarations, you lucky sons of guns will be getting all my bets video. I'll be sharing with you exactly every penny that I've laid out on every horse, what my potential returns are, so you can laugh, mock live during the festival week as you see me get done head after head after head. I might have a worse fest for the Davy Russell this year after the amount of abuse I gave him on Sunday. But we are where we are. Be lucky, go well if we don't see you beforehand. Thank you again for all the support. And I guess mostly thank you to you two guys, right? You were massive supporters this season. You've been a massive help, especially what we did on Sunday. And even things like this, taking the time out and going a little bit longer. I can't thank you guys enough. So be lucky, go well. I hope you get as many winners as I do this week.
Cheers, guys. Have a